All right, I'm going live, and let me get the flag up.
Perfect.
And I'm handing the meeting over to you guys.
Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
United States of America.
Thank you.
And to the republic
For which it stands, one nation.
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks, John. First up is a roll call. As I've already said, and we've already noted, Erin will not be with us tonight. She's having some family things that she's got to take care of, so she'll be missing. She's going to check, try to get into the meeting here and there, and if she has any questions, I told her feel free to text me if she is watching any part of it. Moving forward, we got the approval for minutes from last month's meeting. I'm working with Robert on this. We had a transition, as everybody knows, so we are currently trying to get those minutes approved. I took some, he took some, and this falls on me because I didn't get with him to get those finalized. So he's asked me to get those over, so we'll have those completed tonight, hopefully, or by tomorrow, hopefully, or the next day. However, we do have an agenda for tonight's meeting. If someone wants to second to approve it.
Chris, before you do that, for the roll call to fit with the remote stuff, you have to actually go through and ask each person to identify that they're present and where they're joining the meeting from.
You're very right. I'm sorry. I forgot YouTube doesn't replace that.
Yep.
So I'll start. Chris Schechter, Lyon Township.
And Rick Reynolds, Lyon Township.
And Aaron's gone, so Robert Swain, present in Lyon Township. There we go. Now we're good.
Perfect. Moving on then, can I get somebody to second the approval for tonight's agenda, please?
I'll second the agenda.
There is, prior to the approval though, there is one thing I do want to point out. Erin did send over some information for the parks stuff. She sent that over. We'll vote on that next month for, trying to get that taken care of. She'll be speaking about that. So at this time, we'll go ahead and table that for next month. I'll go ahead and make a note of that, Robert, on noting that that'll be taken till next month, if that's okay with you.
We already approved the agenda, so either
you're right, I did.
Your approval now, or when we get to it, you can table it at that point.
Well, can we table it under unfinished business?
When we get to it, you can say that you want to table it.
Okay, that's okay. And guys, sorry about the stumbling. We had a transition. Normally Robert heads this up, but he no longer can since he's been on the board. So this is my first month of doing it. So I apologize for some of the missteps we're having here right now. Announcements and communications. At this time, we don't have any at this moment, do we? Anybody?
This is where I put in there the Brian's kind of.
I was going to get to that when we had the. I'm sorry. You're right. Go ahead. I thought we had a separate issue. I thought when we were talking last night, we had that separate as an agenda item.
It's on here under the part you're on right now, 6A.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. Brian, would you like to? Is he on? Did he join us?
Yes, I am here.
Perfect. There you are. I'm sorry. I thought you were with maybe one of the other guys. Brian, why don't you go ahead and talk to us? Tell us a little bit about yourself and just take a couple minutes. And if we have any questions, we'll ask. And if not, like I said on the phone yesterday, we'll just go on and hopefully you'll stay with us.
Okay, sounds great.
So I take it then, just to be clear, since nothing's actually been said, Brian is applying for the vacant position.
Correct. You should have got the email okay. All right. I thought you got the email and knew. I apologize.
No,
my assumption was wrong then. I should have introduced him to you, Aaron. I apologize. Or sorry, Lynn. The email went out with his application. He applied. I gave him a call yesterday just to give him a heads up on everything, to make sure he got the email, and just basically told him he'll introduce himself. We'll ask any questions we have any, and then we just move on with the agenda. I hope that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay, great.
All right. So like Chris said, I'm Brian Neiswanger. I've been living in Lyon Township now for 6 years. I have 3 small children in middle school that attend Bartlett, and saw that there was an opening with this advisory board posted online, I think through a Facebook group. And so my college degree is actually in sports facility management through the Parks and Recreation Department at Central Michigan University. So Parks and Rec has always been a big passion of mine. I've got a big background. I actually worked for the Detroit Red Wings and the Detroit Tigers in my immediately post-college to kind of follow along with that degree. Currently, I'm a project manager with a software company that's based out of Indianapolis. It's called T2 Systems. But I've been involved in Parks and Rec my whole life, actually, from playing sports, coaching sports. Now my kids are in sports through the township and or other local communities. My oldest daughter plays hockey. My youngest 2 play softball or t-ball, softball, soccer. So we're kind of all over the gambit with that, with the little ones, but really looking forward to potentially working with this group, and just I'm really here to help make the community better and you know, make this place better for my kids and us and everybody else. So.
Thank you for that, Brian. I appreciate it. Do you guys have any questions for Brian at this time, or Robert, Lynn?
Well, I've talked to him already, so.
Oh, perfect. How about you, Lynn?
You're muted, Lynn.
No questions.
Right.
You have somebody interested?
Okay, so I guess at this point, our options are we can wait to see if we get any more applications, or we can go ahead and nominate or request whatever that Brian be appointed.
No, I was going to say, why don't we appoint him now? He's gone through the proper cycle, and his application was held up a bit. So let's make sure we get this thing moving as quickly as possible. I see no reason not to appoint him. And, you know, I mean, I think we still have one more spot for somebody else, don't we?
Nope, just the one, unless we decide to expand the size of the board.
Nope, that's fine. I thought maybe Dean was going to apply here.
You're breaking up.
Right. Thank you. No, we'll go ahead, Brian. The next step then is for us to let the board know that we'd like to nominate you for being on the board. And they'll have their next month's meeting, and hopefully it'll be on that, which we should be able to make it. And you can either attend that meeting via Zoom or not. And, you know, they'll most likely appoint you, since we're already given our approval. So please feel free to stick around. And if you have any questions or comments, please, you know, chime in. But I got to remind you, you're not part of the board at this time. So you are just at this time a resident viewing you have no voting power is what I'm trying to get at.
Gotcha. Nope, I'm fully understood.
Thank you.
So do you have to make a motion, Chris?
Yeah, I am. Hold on. I'm just writing down some notes. So I motion to move forward with appointing Brian to the Parks Advisory Board. Someone wants to second it?
I'll second that.
Okay. Hold on.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, hang on, guys. I'm just trying to take some notes here. Okay. So I got that. Moving forward then, if there's no other announcements, Lynn, Robert, do you know of anything else or anything else going on?
No, but just for you then, so you'll when it's a vote, you'll call out ayes and then ask for any nays, and then you kind of have to say the result and that it passes or fails. So
okay, so then in this case it's 3 nays to 0 nays, 3 yeas to 0 nays. Moving forward to appoint Brian to the Parks Board. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
Good enough.
That's why I asked you to help me out on this, because I knew I wouldn't be perfect in it all. So then moving on, we're past that. I guess that brings us to you guys, Dean, you and your group. You had asked us to be at the meeting. You'd send an email. We told you, hey, no problem. We will go ahead and turn it over to you at this time. I would ask that if Lynn, Robert, or I have any questions, we hold them to the end for you. And again, we're just here to listen. We're just an advisory board. So, just like to dig in if we have any questions and get the answers and that to better help our residents. So with that being said, look forward to talking with you here.
Well, thank you for having us. I appreciate it. I'd like to start off with introducing Chris Bandy. Chris currently is wearing many hats within the Junior League, Director of Baseball. I believe he's going to head up scheduling this season as well. He must be a glutton for punishment, but
keep asking for more. They keep giving it. Or wait, maybe they keep giving it. I don't ask. One or the other.
Chris, I think technically you should probably state your name and your address just for the.
Yeah. So I'm Chris Bandy.
Hold on.
I actually live in.
Chris, hang on one second. Does he have to state his address, Robert?
Typically, yeah, if it's someone that's not, I neglected that. But yes, typically when someone that's a guest is addressing the board, we ask.
No problem.
Sure, that's all. I apologize.
Yeah, I have no problem. Dean will probably do most of it. I'm here more in case you guys have specific questions that I can answer for you. But I'm Chris Bandy. Like Dean said, I'm the executive director of baseball. I'm the scheduler. I'm the field contact person for the league. So we thought this was pretty important for me to be in front of you guys, so you guys had a name and a face with what we do and how we do it. So I live at 10540 Boulder Crest Drive in Green Oak, actually. Yes, obviously South Lyon has many communities that are tied to it, along with Lyon Township. So that's what I'm here to do for you guys tonight. If you have any questions, I'll try and answer them the best I can.
And my name's Dean Whitcomb. I live at 25885 McCrory Lane in Lyon Township in Carriage Club. Actually former member of this park advisory board from a few years ago and a current member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. So again, thank you for the time. And I was also the chairman of the short-lived Friends of 11 Mile Park committee, which I'm happy to stay on and talk about afterwards if you guys would like. So I'm going to jump right in and share my screen. Oh, let me back up a little bit. So having watched last month's meeting, we were a hot topic for sure, which is great. I think that it was clear that we've been remiss in communicating to this board in particular who we are, what we do, what our role is in the community. So I'm hopeful that this very quick informal presentation just shed some light on kind of some history of the Junior League, how we interact with the community, and all that good stuff. You'll see on this first slide our motto. It's about the kids, and it is the most simple few words that really I've never been with an organization where it was perfect. It just really, every decision we make, we ask ourselves that, and it's got us through thick and thin over the years for sure. The South Lyon Junior League has a 30+ year history. I couldn't figure out exactly, Chris, I don't know if you know, I think it's 36 or 37 right now years.
Yeah, I think we're starting our 37th from what I've picked up over my 6 years with the league.
The Junior League is completely run by volunteers. We are a nonprofit 501c3. Along with that comes requirements from the state in terms of accounting, reporting, licensing, things like that I think are important. The interesting thing about the Junior League is many of the senior leadership are in position for over 10 years. Their kids have long since aged out of the group. They feel positive about what the group's doing in the community, and they've chosen that as their volunteer outlet, including myself. I haven't been nearly as involved in the day-to-day the last few years, but definitely passionate about the Junior League. So I wanted to try to contribute tonight. Additionally, every year the Junior League offers scholarships, a $500 scholarship to a boy and a girl at both high schools. That's named after the current president, Ralph Dunnigan. It's the Ralph Dunnigan Scholarship Award. Ralph, as president, boy, it's probably been 10+ years that he's been president of the Junior League and really a foundational member of who we are today. Several projects over the years that the Junior League has been very involved with the different community organizations. One in particular is McCaddy Park. For those that have been around a while, they'll remember McCaddy used to be one ball field with a giant monstrosity of a backstop. Back in 2013, 14, I believe, we approached the city and we offered to pay a dollar for dollar match, 50% funded. The expansion at McCaddy to 2 fields. We replaced the old backstop and obviously a new backstop on the new field as well. This was a major project for the Junior League. It was the first major project. There had been several small ones before that. The city was very receptive. They found that we had the expertise to build the fields, to project manage, and who doesn't love when your $1 turns into 2? And that's kind of how the city and the Junior League both looked at it. So a very successful project. And if anyone has seen those fields, they're really a gem in the middle of town. We funded a brand new backstop at the field we call 9 Mile. This is the field right along the road between the 2 middle schools. For years, that had a small, rusted out backstop with tons of foul balls ending up out in 9 Mile. We bought a much larger backstop, had it installed. We haven't stopped all the foul balls, but it's definitely a safer place and it's sure a nicer looking area. We worked with the South Lyon School District on that. We fully funded that and project managed it. And I'll just jump in here with a note that any of these projects where we worked with another entity, we wanted to be very cognizant of their exposure to risk and things like that. So there was always some sort of joint agreement written up, insurance requirements, all those good things to make sure that all the parties were protected legally as we tried to improve the community. Back in 2013, we were a 50% funding partner to rehab the fields, the old fields at Atchison Park. As most know on this call, that's been a challenge as that earth continues to settle. But the Junior League always had a special place in our heart for those because it was a great place to play a game. When you got up there with both fields were going on, it was really a fun environment. We approached the township again in, I want to say 2015, 2016, with an additional $10,000 looking to see if there was a match interest, and there wasn't. And quite frankly, I agree with that decision based on, you know, the condition of the land, the continued settling. It would have been good money gone bad, I think, if we would have proceeded with that. Our motivation was we needed the fields. We were a size of an organization where we needed every field we could get. So we were inclined to continue to rehab those. But as you guys know and have learned, it's a tough road up there for sure. One of our pride and joy involvements was with Lyon Township, where we were partners in building the new fields at Atchison. When this went down, the Junior League approached the township about a match type situation like we had done with the city. The Junior League ponied up $75,000. The township brought $110,000 to the table, and we got this done. The township agreed that we had the expertise, and we actually project managed this. We handled all the bids and whatnot. Again, we were careful to limit any exposure or risk to the township through an operating agreement with them. All the funds were handled by the township. Insurances, all that good stuff were covered. It's really I think a gem in the township, and I'm pretty confident the #1 traffic driver in Atchison Park at this point are the ball fields. Interestingly enough, we built those to be the same dimensions as what is considered the 12-year-old baseball nirvana, and that's Cooperstown fields. So they're 200-foot fences, which enables several age groups to hit home runs, which is pretty neat. We would love to discuss further enhancements there. I think the Junior League looks at those fields as opportunity to do more in the community and really make it a gem even more. Additionally, the Junior League helped facilitate with an Eagle Scout a little bridge crossing there that goes over a ditch there. So we had an Eagle Scout get involved as well. These are a couple pictures from early on in the construction. The one on the left, you can see they just hydro-seeded. The fences weren't even up yet. So again, pretty exciting project that I know everyone's very proud of. The next slide, I wanted to pull a quote from an article that was written during that time, and not to toot my own horn. The quote happened to be from me because I was project managing it. But I thought it was relevant considering the last meeting, and I know some of the questions you guys have in terms of how the Junior League works with the fields and whatnot. The Junior League made a conscious decision not to purchase land for fields. We were a nonprofit. We wanted to leave a legacy for the community. We've worked with the schools, with the township, with the city of South Lyon to try to leave it better than we found it. We have a rental agreement for the field, so that's a year-to-year rental agreement that we have. And there's more on that as we go, but I thought that was relevant and wanted to plug it in here. Additionally, we more recently worked with the South Line School District on Pearson Elementary. They came to us and said, listen, we need a field. It's a requirement when you're building a school. We want to do more in the kickball field. Help us design it. What works better than just a kickball field? We wanted a lot more, but I'm pretty happy with what turned out. They came to us and consulted, and it was neat to be part of that process for the junior league for sure. Some of the other things that we generally spend our money on or activities we do to make the experience positive for the kids is you'll see porta potties around the community, around these fields. Those are all paid for by the junior league. All the lawn mowing and irrigation costs that currently on the fields at Atchison Park are paid for by the junior league. There was irrigation installed in those fields when they were built, and the maintenance of them, the blowing them out in the fall, the junior league handles the cost of all that. We hire a local professional company to do that. The junior league field preps every game, chalking, dragging, and if you've ever been in other communities, that is not normal. But we think it's super important for the experience. We pay for that, and we make sure that the fields are in really good shape when the kids walk out on them. General upkeep and maintenance of the fields are provided by the junior league. There's been dozens of small one-offs that we'll call the schools and say, hey, there's ponding at Brummer, and we'd like to go fix it, and we get their blessing and we go take care of it. There's been dozens of those. You might recognize that box at the bottom. That's a field box that you'll see at every field. That was purchased by the junior league. That's stocked by the junior league with bases, drags, first aid kits, and everything you need to have a positive experience. We actually have volunteers that's their job. They make sure that those are stocked all the time. They're making the rounds and making sure those have what they need, especially first aid. Currently, we interact with 3 entities around field reservations: Lyon Township, SLERA, who handles the reservations for the city, and the South Lyon School District. The requirements from each are slightly different in terms of an application or a form that we fill out every year. The insurance is, again, slightly different, but all require a fairly healthy insurance policy, which we obviously carry. The interesting thing here is that we have consistently had a track record of working with those entities whenever they have a one-off request. We use a lot of the fields. We have a ton of kids, a ton of teams, but there'll be occasions where SLERA will have a family reunion request at McCaddy, or at Lyon Township will at Atchison, or they'll want to do movies in the park, or we'll talk to the township about Kite Fest and make sure we're not scheduling anything during those days. We've always been a good partner to clear the decks and get out of the way for that sort of thing. The schools in particular have different levels of classifications of organizations, and their rental rates when you get to non-profit local organizations can be a bit severe and extreme. We work with Amy Allen at SLERA on McCaddy and Atchison Park, and we've always been a good partner there with Amy as well. And then we work with Melanie generally at Lyon Township Hall. Who are we? Who is the Junior League, and what does its membership look like? When the Junior League was founded many years ago, so many of our fields are the school fields that it really made a lot of sense to set it up around the school boundaries. So you'll see in the notes here that 75% of every Junior League team must be residents, and that's South Lyon School District residents. Chris, I'd ask you to jump in here. I would guess that the house teams are probably 99%.
We're actually a blended number with house and travel at about 94, 95 last I looked.
Okay.
With the enrollment still going on for spring, that number might change a little bit here, but it's going to be in the mid to high 90s every year with our organizations. Our travel teams usually only can take 1 or 2 out-of-towners to play on them out of a 12-man team, and all of our house teams almost are 100%, minus a few maybe from a neighboring city like Walled Lake. We might get a few. Milford, we might get a few. Brighton, that type of thing. But it all depends on, like, Brighton lost their youth organization a few years ago. So they kind of went to legacy and disappeared. So we've seen a little more infiltration of some Brighton kids, but still very minimal comparison to the Lyon Township, South Lyon kids.
Yeah, interesting point to there. You'll notice there an exception there at the discretion of the board teams from other communities. I know in years past, Whitmore Lake, for example, didn't have enough to field a full league. So we would invite a few teams of a certain age group to join the junior league from Whitmore Lake, things like that. Additionally, when you get into the older kids, 14, 15, 16, that are still playing at the house level, there aren't the strong numbers. So we'll a lot of times partner with other communities to create a league for those older kids. Additionally, who we are, I wanted to touch on what we're looking at for this year in terms of numbers. As Chris mentioned, registration is still ongoing, but we're looking like we'll have to the tune of 900 players. And again, to Chris's point, that's 95% plus South Lyon School District residents. That's going to equate to 80 teams roughly. Each team on average use a field 3 times per week throughout the season. A couple practices or a couple games in a practice generally. Scheduling has been managed internally, and it also includes the scheduling of umpires, which is something you don't think about. If you start doing the math on 80 teams, you're talking, Chris, do you know how many games is it 1,000 games?
80 teams times 12 games, so 960. Yeah. Travel teams will play a little more than that, so you're probably over 1,000 games total
that we're handling the scheduling on, and making sure that there's umpires on site, and then reshuffling the deck when it rains and all that good stuff that goes along with a game. When you walk up and don't think of any of that, you know the junior league's done a good thing, because it just kind of happened automatically. Just a quick note on umpires. It's been a passion of the junior league for many years to teach a love of the game from many different angles. We have umpire clinics. I would suspect that the South Lyon Junior League is the #1 employer in the summer of school-age kids in the community, because most of the umpires are kids of different ages, which is pretty neat. I wanted to touch briefly on vendors or for-profit entities and how the Junior League historically has engaged with them. I know this came up last meeting for you guys, and I just want to touch on a little bit of it. Bear with me. I'm going to look for my notes to this. I think one thing to keep in mind is that we really do believe it's about the kids, which creates at times a difficult situation for us in dealing with for-profit entities. As you all know, youth sports has changed dramatically over the last 10 or 20 years. And it's become big business. It's become multi-billion-dollar business. Just within 10 miles of South Lyon, there's multiple for-profit baseball, softball type entities. D-Bats, I know who's on the call tonight, is one of them. Total Sports in Wixom, Legacy Center in Brighton. We've got Action Sports right in Lyon Township that's profiting from youth baseball and softball. And that's great. I'm a baseball guy. I love that. I love that there's options, and I love all that. The challenge we have at times as a nonprofit junior league is it's really about the kids, and we have many members that are members over at D-Bats or use Total Sports or use Legacy. That's great. We love that they have options. For us to quote unquote partner with one or another can be difficult, because we're not in the business of picking winners and losers in for-profit worlds. It's not always in our best interest. Now, you might say, well, Dean, you have vendors. You're picking winners when you pick a vendor. Absolutely, we have vendors. We have porta potty vendors. We have fence vendors we used for construction. We have apparel vendors, photography vendors. Those things are generally put out to quote. I would tell you that it's not always about price. Service means a lot. For example, our apparel contract for many years has gone to KV Sports right in town. One of the reasons for that is the price has been right, #1. But #2 is that the junior league is not a nonprofit. We don't have an office. We don't have a headquarters. So when Johnny's pants don't fit right, having a vendor that's willing to handle that for us and have a place of business right in the middle of town and has been a member of the league for years really works well for us. The photographer we've used, for example, has been with us many years, and there's several things that they do during the season at no charge for the benefit of the families and whatnot. So definitely, there are opportunities to partner with the Junior League as a vendor. I would say that I want to touch briefly on tournaments. I know that came up on the last meeting, and this is one man's opinion. I'd ask Chris to chime in too. Tournaments are a challenge in this community for a couple reasons. Number one is the schools. The schools have the predominant number of fields. Their fee structure is clearly set that they are not interested in hosting tournaments. They don't see the value, and they've created a fee structure around that. So it really isn't economically viable to have tournaments that involve the school fields. So now you're talking about Atchison Park, and you're talking about McCaddy and Volunteer. And to get to a level of tournament that brings the economic machine to the community, which I love, takes multiple age groups over multiple fields. And I just don't know that's here, that's available. You've got two 200-foot fence fields at Atchison that really can only handle up to 12 U boys. So you couldn't have older age groups at those fields. The same with McCaddy. McCaddy's really 10 or 11 U would be the max. The other thing to consider is that based on the number of teams the Junior League runs, for us to step away from the fields for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday tournament for out-of-towners means it's 2 games a night at Atchison on each field and probably 4 games on Saturdays. You're talking about 100 kids on Fridays that are South Lyon Community School kids on the sidelines, and then 200 kids on Saturday that wouldn't have access to the fields for a for-profit tournament. I've always felt like the park's number one purpose is to provide recreational activities for township residents. Generating income for the township businesses, that's a great thing. If that can be done in conjunction without penalizing the number one marching order, I think it's a win. But I personally don't see how that fits. But again, just my opinion. I don't know, Chris, if you had anything to add to that.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, Dean. The only thing I would really add is the schools aren't interested in the tournaments at all. And they actually not only have a fee structure against it, but they also have rules against it where a South Lyon-based team has to be on the field at all times. So it's almost physically impossible to run a tournament because you can't always dictate a South Lyon team is going to win to be in the championships, right? When you have a 4, 6, 8 tournament. So they're geared towards keeping the fields based on just the South Lyon community kids because that is the marching order, right? They want to make sure it's all going back to the community as well. And that's the struggle we see with when we start running for-profit tournaments. You start inviting all these outside organizations in, and half your weekend could be where there's no South Lyon teams on the field at all, right? Or who's to say a South Lyon team's even going to register for the tournaments? And it would be all outsiders playing on those fields while our in-house community kids are sitting on the sidelines, missing out on games and having to figure out all their alternatives to make it work.
I think that Jason, and I don't know Jason, I love Jason's business model. I'm a baseball guy. I'm totally jealous that I'm not doing that for a living. So congratulations, Jason. I know you expressed some frustration around communicating with the Junior League, and I want to apologize on behalf of the Junior League for that and just say that it happens with us at times because we are volunteer run. We don't have a phone number per se and whatnot. We've actually, with COVID, moved our meetings around. They've been remote. It's been a bit of a hodgepodge like most meetings. But Jason, I'd love to talk to you offline around some of that a little bit more. I think Chris would as well. So I believe that's all I had. And Chris, unless there's anything you wanted to add, I wanted to thank the board for their time and see if they had any questions or comments. You're muted, Chris.
First thing I'd like to ask is I think Jason was on the phone or on the meeting with us. If you guys don't mind, I'd like to ask Jason first what he would like to say, since that's what prompted this meeting with you guys. If he'd like to add anything or ask any questions, give him the courtesy of doing that. And then I do have some questions I'd like to ask, but I can wait until after the other board members as well as anybody from the call from the public and Jason are done.
Sure. So thanks, appreciate that. So I guess a couple things. I should apologize in advance. I wasn't trying to draw the ire of your organization. Actually, I've been trying to work very cooperate. Well, I'm trying to cooperate with your teams, and it's not, I don't need a phone number or anything like that. I mean, I've been to several board meetings just to try and participate and encourage, I don't know, baseball in the community as well. I'm a little challenged by some of the statements made. So like travel tournaments aren't, I don't think are the devil they're being made out to be. There are community level teams, there are community level tournaments, and I agree with you 100% what you said. Number one, recreational activities, you know, the number one activity by the Parks and Rec Department should be recreational activities. So I wouldn't assume that if anyone else would like to use the fields, that it would be strictly for tournament baseball. As DBAT, I don't own teams. We don't own teams. We're a very unbiased organization. So we are supporting the athlete. So in regards to those recreational activities, several of the things we want to put on are camps and clinics, very large scale. We have a few ex-Tigers that have shown interest and want to participate with our company to help put those on for the community. So some of them free, some of them not. It's going to depend on what we do and how many instructors we have to hire to help run it based on the numbers. So I'm not sure what prompted that. And as for the schools, I mean, we'll have that conversation with them separately. If you guys represent the schools, we can talk about that as well, but we can have that conversation separately. And if honestly, I'll just be full transparent. If there's no, if the Southline Junior League is not interested in any non-Southline Junior League participants for baseball, then that's great. We'll pick a different community and build this tournament epicenter somewhere, because it's going to get built. We have a vision of what we want to do, and it's help all the kids, not just Southline Junior League kids.
Jason, if I might, Chris, do you mind? Yeah, I'm just, if I can respond. You're on mute, Chris.
No, move forward. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and Jason, I appreciate it. I think that we were very intrigued about your business model around building, to scale replicas, things like that. And I think the Junior League would be, huge customers of something like that, because that's an experience for sure. And there's going to be things we can agree to disagree on. That's fine. The Junior League is purely about the kids in the community, and are we protective of that? Yes, or we are, sometimes to a fault. Over the years, we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of for-profit businesses that have engaged with the Junior League. And I have no reason to doubt that you're a great, reputable business. Everything I've heard is just that. So please don't take it that way, but we are protective. I think that we've contributed quite a bit to the community. We're trying to leave a legacy behind, but we really try to make every decision about the kids. And when there's a chance that Southline kids are on the sideline for an epicenter of tournaments, that again, that's, I guess we're going to agree to disagree. I don't see it being viable, but again,
sure. No, and that's totally fair, right? And I get that, but you're also assuming that all the Southline kids are in the Junior League, right? I can pull up. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I can pull a list of several of our customers. Of the 1,800 athletes we have that participate here, I think we're up to 300 and some are Southline residents that are not in the Junior League, that play travel ball or some other township, right? So there won't be Southline kids left out in the field, and I resent that remark. I mean, we would never do that. As a matter of fact, day one, we really tried to include our home court, right, where in the Southline Junior League, and get them to actively participate. Even the fact that we came down to cost on several things just to promote the Junior League with a little interest, which is totally fine. I get it. Apparently being seen as a nonprofit is not a positive, or being seen as a profitable company is not a positive. I get that. But that doesn't mean we care any less for the kids either.
No, and that's fair. And I think that I don't begrudge. I'm a businessman myself. I more power to you for sure. I don't know that we want to be promoting or advocating for profits as a general rule of thumb. And I think our actions have represented that. So.
Yeah, and I would add too that, I mean, the Junior League's actually taken that stance that we're not affiliating ourselves with a partnership with any for-profit. We use DBAT for some of our teams. We use Action Sports for some of our teams. Some of our teams go to Total Sports for their indoor facilities and things like that. We're trying to really stay as an organization that's neutral to all the outside organizations. We start swinging one way or the other, that really influences the community to maybe one facility or the other. We're really trying to stay neutral on that. I think what kind of drew our interest into the conversations from the last time, and maybe it was what was perceived, was that the basis of that conversation at the last meeting sounded like it was heavily geared towards tournaments and geared towards tournaments starting as early as March and running through October. Well, as Dean laid out to you in our scheduling, those Saturdays are extremely important to us in our junior league in order to get games in. I know the comments were made when you drive by, the fields are never used. That's not true. To be honest with you, we schedule our fields to the max that we can with some flexibility for rainouts, because we do have a season that we lay out that starts in early April and goes through late June, early July, where we book those weeks, and we may plug in a day here and there on a field that's a rainout makeup day because it's Michigan weather. You're not going to play every game you think you're going to play in early May because of the weather. So we try and make sure we're maximizing the fields and also giving back to the community time to where they can be used. You know, I was sent an email today asking for a July date, that there was a community member wanting to do a community-wide or neighborhood-wide baseball game at the fields. Hey, what day works for you? And I said, you tell me, we'll make it work around it. You know, we're very accommodating to try and make that work. It's when we see something like a tournament coming in, and again, this is what we perceive, it may not be what actually ends up happening, is that would then bump the community-based teams off. And it would. We only have 12 weeks to get our seasons in, and those 12 weeks, we literally maximize game time to get them in and out. If we start taking Saturdays away, then when do we make them up? How do we get those games in, and where do we play them at? So that's the struggle we see with the tournaments coming in. I'm all for another, if again, I know Jason fairly well, actually. So I would love to see Jason be able to put a huge complex into the community. Our organization would benefit from that. But when it's using the two fields that we use and primarily put a lot of our games up on, that's a little bit of a struggle for us. That what then do we do? How do we take our nonprofit organization that's really driving the 900 plus kids every year to those fields? What happens to them? So that's why we're here.
So that's fair. And I think a couple points I would add is I can appreciate this staying neutral. However, I mean, by your own admission, right? Brighton baseball kind of went away. The recreation program went away after going to Legacy, right? So by not staying loyal to a South Lyon business or a Lyon Township business, the exact opposite effect of, I think, of what you're trying to accomplish is what's going to happen. So I can appreciate that. And I'm not saying you have to, I don't know what affiliate means, or I'm not sure what that definition is that you're referring to. But it's really just a local community business with the local community teams that it would consider its home teams, providing them some discounted level of service that they're not getting today. So I can totally appreciate and understand that. And we do have South Lyon teams, or I'm sorry, junior league teams come to us directly because the coaches have decided, not the junior league, to come and work out at our facility or do what they need to do. And I hear you loud and clear. That you feel that the tournaments would hurt somehow the junior league teams. I don't think there's evidence one way or the other to support that, but fair enough. So I guess what I'm hearing, and I'll take that message away, is that the South Lyon Junior League, a couple things, isn't super interested in working with A, for-profit companies, and B, sharing those fields for any of the other youth that maybe not be in the junior league to run tournaments or community activities out of.
If I could, just a couple things. Full disclosure, I coach a team at Total Baseball. I coach an 18U team. 11 of the 12 kids are from South Lyon. So I want to be fully clear on that. And the reason we're there is I've got a group of kids that wanted to stay together and want to try to play at the next level. And they wanted an indoor facility that had fields, the whole 9 yards. So we moved over as a team. I think there's opportunity, Jason, through SLERA with camps and clinics. Ryan Markin, who's the current head coach at Spring Arbor University, ran several successful camps and clinics in the community that were for profit for him and his organization that we fully supported and cleared the decks and got out of the way as he worked through SLERA and the city on that. Those were run at Volunteer Park at the time, but just to throw that out there. And again, this may be a point we agree to disagree, but the Brighton nonprofit partnering with Legacy and went away because they partnered with a profit. is kind of my take on how that went down. The profit kind of swooped in and took it over, and
Yep.
that's obviously something, that's how we perceive it. So that's in our past that we're leery of. So
Correct. And you're 100% right, because Legacy has a team organization, right? They're not open. You can't go there if you're a total team. You can't get access to certain things, right? As you're well aware. Whereas that's not the case with us. We don't operate teams. We don't own an organization. We're not that facility. So I guess you're kind of making my point, which is you're spreading out by sending your teams to Legacy at the same detriment of what happened in Brighton. I guess that's what I'm hearing. So,
well,
totally
and our
understand
numbers
that.
are very strong. They've stayed strong. We're 900. We're going to be 900 plus this year. That's by far the largest youth athletic organization in the community. So,
And that's
Chris?
great. And we're looking to support that. I guess it's a little disappointing for us when we have outside communities, Northville, Livonia, Novi, their community rec programs come and want to be a part of it. And our own junior league doesn't have much interest. So I can appreciate the stance. And again, one of those things we'll agree to disagree. And I was trying to really build an inclusive environment for all the kids, not exclude recreational players at all. And I think what we're looking at now is,
Guys, so sorry, I don't want
you're right.
to.
We're getting off
I don't
topic,
want to
Robert.
cut
I
you guys
apologize.
off,
No,
but
you're right.
But we're not here to solve the relationship between.
well, and
junior league
Robert, I can bring it right back to you.
100%.
Give me just 10 seconds.
Yeah, 100%.
Is we don't own the fields. And you're right. This is something that we should talk about offline, because you can agree to disagree and go apply for those fields. Those are not our fields. And Chris and Robert and Lynn, thank you for the time. And yeah, I think
So, that's
Jason,
perfect. And actually that brings me to my core question from last week, which was, what is the legal agreement that the township has with the junior league? That's all I was looking to find out last week or last month.
Right. So that's what, just to kind of bring back to my expectations for right now. If anybody disagrees with me or wants to have a different approach to this, we can talk about that. But I'd like to take a couple minutes here and go through. I had some questions back to some of the points in the junior league presentation. And then we can kind of consider, maybe at that point, after anybody else that has questions for that, we can consider that portion of like that presentation to be done. And then we can bring up the baseball field new business item while you guys are both here. And then I'd like to talk through kind of some of this board's perspective on what do we think we should be doing in terms of the state of just specifically the fields that we have in our park. Does that sound okay to everybody? Okay. So I guess echoing one of Jason's questions is I guess my main question is, I know going back many, many, many years before the current fields that you guys are using were built.
Robert, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to make sure though. So what I want both parties to understand is that we are, as I said already, we're looking to promote the parks area as best we can. So and I want to make sure that we're understanding both parties as well. We want to promote, just like what you said, the usage of those fields as best we can. So for us as board members, we're not looking to discuss relationships as much as we are relationships related to the field. And that's what the core of your topic is going to be, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we were all, okay, that's fine. Sorry about that. I was taking notes. I thought I heard something else. That's why I was asking.
No. So many, many years ago back, I was on a previous incarnation of this back before when Dean was on this. I think I was on from I want to say 2005 or 6 to 2009. So while I was in high school here. And at that time we had, I want to say we were running 4 fields at that time because some of the old ones up top were still active.
Yeah, there were two on top of the hill too. Yeah.
And so at that time we were running several community sports programs were operating in the park. We had Junior League using those 4 or so fields. We had Panthers using whatever other field areas. We had, I think there was a lacrosse program at the time, as well as a soccer
too.
program. Yeah. And we had contracts of some sort, or usage agreements, whatever terminology you want to apply to it. We had agreements with all of those organizations at the time. And they went through and outlined, who was responsible for what kind of maintenance and liability, what fees were involved, who paid for what, all those kind of things. And when I came back to this group in I want to say it was 2015, it didn't seem like we had that anymore. And since that time, I have still never seen an agreement with anyone. I know there was a agreement around the cost sharing on the construction of the new fields. But I guess my main question was, what is the state of that? Do we have any kind of formal agreement of what the terms are for your guys' usage of the fields?
Yeah, so in the original joint agreement to build the fields, this was addressed. And I apologize, Robert, I don't have a electronic copy of this anymore, but I will maybe drop one off for you at Township Hall.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, you don't have to.
But it has a section called ownership and control. And I'll just read it. The township shall maintain ownership and control of the ball fields upon completion. The junior league shall be permitted to use the fields subject to terms mutually agreed upon in an annual use agreement. To date, and to my knowledge, that annual use agreement has been filled out consistently since at least 2012 with the office staff, where we filled out an application. We've provided a scheduling block of our asks. They've kept it on hand as they've got independent requests. After that, they would at that time called me. Now they'll call Chris, and we'd work it out. So that's kind of how it's worked.
Yeah, and I can elaborate a little bit, Robert. I've taken over scheduling the last 2 years. Got to know Melanie now a little more this spring, over the winter a little bit. The way my understanding is, and I use this term loosely, the way she explained it to me is the junior league had first right of refusal for the fields. I guess if that's the best way to explain it. The only thing she asked of us was no scheduling on Sunday, so that the township residents had a day where they could book the fields. And she also asked if possible for Saturday evenings not to book the fields, like after 5 or 6 o'clock. So there would be time where someone could come up and use the fields, where they know that there wouldn't be junior leagues up here using them or anything like that. So we have submitted our schedule to her, like we do every year, let her know what our, unfortunately, we don't have our game schedules or anything out yet. So I can't tell you like, hey, it's going to be this team on this field at that day, but we've booked out the days that we see the usage of the field, and those days and would use what she gave us basically. And we would use those fields, through the evenings, Monday through Friday and Saturday, up until when she asked us not to use them. We would literally have teams on those fields almost around the clock, in those timeframes that she asked or provided.
And Robert, just one last point. There is a fee, as I think to rent the fields. That's part of township policy. That's been waived every year for the junior league because we've done in-kind maintenance and service that well exceeded the fee. When the old fields were in use, we were cutting all that grass. We currently cut all the grass around the new fields. We handle the irrigation system as well. So.
Okay, that was going to be my next question was, the maintenance of, so you guys directly have a contractor that does that mowing?
Yeah.
Correct. We do. We also provide all the bases, on the fields. So when we walk away from the fields, those bases are still there for the community to use on Sundays, for example. We provide all that. We maintain them. They've actually been looking at another Eagle Scout project for this year to pave blacktop the bridge across the gully ditch, whatever you want to call it, to really enhance that. They've talked about doing a pavilion over there. We've looked at a lot of things that junior league can provide back to the township to make it a better experience at Atchison, because I'll be honest with you, those 2 fields are the crown jewels of our fields that we play on, because we put a lot of effort into not only building them, but maintaining them to keep them the way they are.
Okay. I guess, I mean, this is somewhat internal township issues that we'll have to deal with in other ways, I guess. But I guess something that I think maybe we can work on, I guess, is a little bit more of that communication of, like, for example, like, if I know you guys are the primary users and I know we're just an advisory group, but things like, you know, like I didn't know that it was an Eagle Scout project that constructed that crossing. Like, you know, those are things that I think are good to communicate to this group. Not that we're going to say, you know, no, you can't do that, but just even if it's just like a, hey, send us a memo that this kind of stuff is going on. Because I mean, that's great. And I like, and I would have liked to have been able to point at that and say, hey, look at this good thing going on, but nobody.
Sure. And I can make sure we provide that communication in the future. I know, again, I wasn't the person who was involved in that project, but it was communicated through the township. But again, keeping you guys.
And that's what I said. I know some of that might be on us internally as the township
and I'll take some of that internal in the league too. You know, it's a volunteer position, so we do turn over people. Luckily, Dean has been very well connected with me over the last 2 years. So there's a lot of communication between us, but some of these, I didn't know there was an advisory board until a couple of weeks ago. So now that I do, I can help communicate with you guys a little better of what we have going on with the league, you know, what our expectations are from year to year, and really have a better tight knit line of communication opened up with everybody.
All right. Also, you said SLARA is responsible for scheduling the city's fields?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a few years longer than that. We used to deal with the city manager and city hall directly.
That's how I thought it worked, but
yeah, and they moved it over to Amy's organization probably 3 to 5 years ago, somewhere in there.
Yeah, from talking to Amy, I think it was just streamlined because they're the ones who use the fields with us the most. So let them be the gatekeepers. Obviously, they're running city programs first, and then we would be the second, you know, usage of them. So with that, they felt it was easier to have her manage it, and then if there's any conflicts, it goes back to the city. But again, we try and stay out of the conflicts as much as we can. You know, whenever there's a city or something going on,
that's just interesting to me because it's like, all right, if you know, we're an equal part of SLARA to the city, so if SLARA is handling that for the city, I think it's something we might want to look into to see, just again, streamlining. Why don't we do ours in the same way? But
or can I jump in here and ask a quick question?
Yep.
Chris, you just said that the city, and I want to make sure I heard this right. You said that when you were dealing with the city gave first priority to the city people, the city league, correct?
So SLARA runs some city programs like movies in the park and things like that. So they take precedent over any of our games. Just like when you guys run Kite Fest or anything, we step aside from that first and foremost, right?
Okay. I wanted to make sure I understood that right. That's why I was
not citizens of the city, Chris, just the SLARA, the Southline Rec events.
That's fine. That's why I asked. I wanted to make sure I was asking to follow along right.
Yeah, and I may not have spoken or said it the right way, so.
No, that's all right. That's why I asked. I mean, because my thought process was, well, wait a minute. How do you take precedent here and we all pay in the SLARA together? You know, I mean, that's what I didn't understand. So thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe to expand on that a little bit, it's the same thing with the schools, right? The schools have certain designations for types of groups. And in the school system, we're a group 3A organization, I believe is what it's called. And there's limited numbers of those groups, right? And those groups take precedence over a for-profit group. They take precedence over an outside organization coming in. That doesn't mean we still wouldn't work with those organizations. It just is their hierarchy of usage, I guess is the best way to put it. And they have
first to the school teams, then they're going to give it to some other program.
So like for us, it's, you know, school teams first, then baseball would be next. You know, the junior league would be second fiddle for the baseball fields, but Panthers would be second fiddle for the football fields, things like that, right? So they limit those groups for a reason, so there isn't that conflict of what's going on. They've looked at it over the years and tried to see, is there other organizations that qualify? And 99.9% of the time they come back with no, they don't, because there are very strict stipulations. You have to be a 501c3 to use the fields. You have to do certain things to meet this. You have to have so much residency. You know, like the schools, like I said, they make us have a South Lyon team on the field every time those fields are being used. So we can't even run a 4-team mini tournament at the high school field, say, because there could be two Brighton and Northvilles playing against each other.
Right. Okay. And then what, I know you said your season is about 12 weeks. Like what generally, like when to when do you operate?
So when I say 12 weeks, that's the house league. So we start April 1st with our house league and we run through the end of June. And then our all-star week is usually the middle of June or July, I'm sorry. However, our travel organizations still run throughout July. And then last year we, because of COVID, moved our fall season forward, where we actually started practices in late July, had games in early August, and ran those through September and early October. And what that did for us, it allowed us to spread out a little bit and not have so much crammed in, because typically our fall season would start a week before school started and end right around Halloween. Again, you really don't want to be playing baseball on October 31st in Michigan 50% of the time. So we are looking at doing that again, moving our fall season forward again this year and starting right back up. So about 3 or 4 weeks in between our seasons from game to game, but some practices would start early. So really it's a April through early October season with a little bit of lulls in the middle. July, call it 4th through July 25th is probably our lullest period where just our travel teams are running, which is about, call it 20 teams in total, 15 to 20 teams that would be running at that time.
Chris, what's the difference between your house league and your travel league? I mean, I understand the term of what it is, but so for example, do your travel leagues go to other cities and play?
So they do, and other cities would come to play us. So, Brighton has a 10U travel team. They'll come and play our 10U teams.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. So the other thing they do is they play a lot of tournaments. They do travel out of state, in state for tournaments. They have a lot of that play going on as well. In a lot of our boys divisions, we actually have 2 teams, so they will even play each other quite often for games. We have a red and a blue team. They'll play each other. Our house league is really the community kids that my son's a community kid. I call him, he's a house kid. He's going to be turning 14 in July, and he's just not a travel kid. I could go get him on a travel team tomorrow. I can cut the check and get him on one. However, his skill set is he's a house league kid, right? He's a good baseball player. He's not great enough to go play. He probably won't play high school ball, but he loves the game and we want to keep him interested. And that's what our house league is for the older portion of it. But the younger portion of it, it's really a developmental league to get the kids good enough to feed into a travel program, to feed into a high school baseball program, and really get them to enjoy the game. The other part of it, as Dean hinted to, is the umpiring fact of it. Last year alone, we were the only organization in the state of Michigan. We sent 9, 12, 13-year-olds to the Michigan High School Umpiring Association camp in February. That was a 2-day, 16.5-hour camp that they went through to get certified as umpires. And every year we're part of that now with this organization, building the umpire base, because and I know Jason can't even argue this one because we all agree there's not enough umpires in the world, and we need to help build that. So we're finding kids in part of the organization that also transition. I'm not going to be good enough to play high school ball, but I still love baseball. What else can I do? And they transition into umpiring.
And if I can just add, Chris, just a point of clarity, the travel teams run under the name South Lyon Thunder and South Lyon Stealth. There's been times where they've been confused as separate organizations. They're part of the junior league.
How does that then, and forgive me, I'm not poking anything. I'm just asking to better understand. How does that differ from the format then that Jason's organization does?
So Jason doesn't have teams currently. Jason was just, my understanding is he had them once, but he's not having them any longer. If I'm right, Jason, I don't want to speak for you.
No, we've never owned teams ever.
Yeah. So, what we understand is he's looking to run tournaments with outside teams because obviously he doesn't have any. That's the difference for us, I guess. But he'd be using that travel organization base of our teams, Northville, Novi, Brighton, and anyone who wanted to come in to go and have part of the tournament. I think that answers your question.
Yeah, but was I wrong in understanding you just said you go to other cities? What I'm trying to connect is that if you already go to other cities, right, and you're playing these teams, and he wants to do that format here, then why couldn't we have a format where it was just South Lyon, a South Lyon team has to be on that field, but he can use other outside, I guess, work with you guys to have other outside. He could do something where it's other outside cities coming here and he's working with you guys on that.
And I wouldn't say that there's any opposition to having that. What we're saying is most of these outside organizations, if they're for-profit, like Legacy runs tournaments all weekend long, all summer long, but they're a for-profit organization. Most of these other tournaments that are run by a local organization, it's being run by a team, or the junior league would run the tournaments and use that as a fundraiser for the teams, or use it as a community builder or whatever. Some of them do it as a way to generate funds to build fields. There's a lot of different ways that it's done. Our bread and butter is our house league. It's not our travel league. I would say it's got to be 75% of our league is our house league.
Okay. I was just better. I'm just asking.
Yeah, no,
it's a fair question.
That's why we're here. We want you guys to understand what the junior league is and how we service the community, so you guys can have a better understanding of it, because as we've all said, there's a lack of communication of what we are, who we are, and what we do. And we need to pat ourselves on the back and talk a little more about what we do and get with you guys and let you know that. So we're here to answer whatever questions you got and the best we can.
Robert, I'm sorry. Did you have any other questions? I apologize for that.
I might have one more, but Lynn, do you have anything?
Well, I guess my question is, and I guess Jason might be able to answer this, is how many weekends really are you looking for, Jason?
So I honestly, I'm not sure yet, because it's going to depend on what that availability looks like, right? If it's very sparse and, well, honestly, if it's very sparse and it's not a real welcome community addition to run tournaments here, probably not worth it, right? Because I don't want to bring any players into this environment that, really aren't welcome. So I would say we're looking at several weekends. It would be a summer. I mean,
I guess maybe to rephrase that, and sorry to hijack this, Lynn.
No, you're good.
But I guess how big, like how many games, how many weekends, whatever kind of size things would you actually need to be available to make it viable, of worth your while to do something, versus you're still looking elsewhere and you are just not going to try this?
So let me put that number together, but I'm sure the number would easily conflict with several weekends that the junior league would look for, right? I'm sure we'd be looking for at least 6 or 8 weekends at a minimum.
Okay.
Probably Friday through Sunday at least.
Okay, because that's where I was saying, like, okay, if we can find, some gaps where, where junior league has their lull between their house seasons, and maybe there's a little sparser usage. That's, I guess, kind of something that as from the perspective of someone who just wants to see the fields be used, and I want to benefit everybody, where obviously I tend to agree with the, I guess, and again, I don't know if this is really the right term, but that first refusal concept where, junior league did pay for 40% of these fields. And so I think that does give them some elevated right to use them. No,
and I apologize. I didn't know that was in perpetuity, right? Like that by building those out, it was in perpetuity.
That's why I guess I'm not saying any final things here, and obviously it's all just my opinion. I'd like to see the agreements at some point, but I guess my point is I want to slightly separate the, you don't necessarily have to have DBAT and junior league don't necessarily have to be partners. There's a separate component here of the township may still see it as a worthwhile thing to try partnering with a local business who might be interested in putting something back into further improving that facility, that then goes on and benefits the residents and junior league as another user, is what I'm interested in seeing, if we can explore that possibility. And obviously, I'm not asking you to give like numbers right now, and I know we need some time to find the current agreements and comb through them, but that's just kind of where my head is at after hearing all of this, is that I know it doesn't maybe look like, it's not super apparent to me that this is going to work, but it's also to me not worth saying at this point, well, there's no way this is possible. But obviously that's up to you as well.
Fair. We're willing to figure something out if we can, for sure. I mean, like I said, Lyon Township and South Lyon is our home court, our home turf. So we'd prefer to bring teams here rather than send them
and
elsewhere.
That's where also, like we talked about before, depending upon this is, again, maybe some kind of homework for you, I guess, is figure out what that scale is that you need. Because we do have the possibilities of, they're not in great shape and you're fixing them up might not last very long, but we have those two other fields where if you're running a for-profit tournament, it might be still viable for you to bring them back up to a playable level, use them, get your profits out of it to cover your investment, and then the community also benefits by having additional fields, and then junior league potentially benefits if they need some overflow space when they're not being used for other things. So I guess I'm just saying there's a lot of possibility here that can still happen.
If I could, to put a bow on it from our end, we had the junior league had committed to the township to fund 50% of the 11-mile road field if that had come to fruition.
Yeah.
And that, our fiscal policy and budget has a capital expenditure fund, and we very much want to improve the fields in the community. It's difficult to do with the schools because their budgets are so tight, and ball fields are just such a non-factor for schools. I think we'd very much like to engage the township on further enhancements to those two fields there. And who knows, I once saw a drawing way back when where there was another field farther down the road. So I think there was
I know.
or reluctance
when we built those, I mean, I was at the time, I wanted to go up in size to, I want to say it was like a 300-foot field or something, so that we could accommodate some of the
adult softball.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's what I wanted to see, but I don't remember the exact reasoning, but it
didn't fit on that particular plot. I think a 300 would fit farther down the road, farther west. Mm-hmm. And then, the 11-mile park was going to be 300 foot again for adult softball or more flexibility.
Yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms of the holdups over there. But
yeah, for sure.
So if I can add one quick thing, we have engaged the township planning commission. I'm sorry, Christina and a few others to actually talk about land availability to build fields, and we're having those discussions as we speak. But I think the only thing I would ask this board is that, we'd be interested in seeing what we can do to help with those fields. I would only ask that if the junior league decides to do that and put pitch-ins for those fields, whatever it looks like, that this agreement just not be in perpetuity. I think it's
not. It's not now. Okay. It's a yearly renewal. It's not in perpetuity.
Okay. So that yearly renewal is open to anybody to go and apply for then.
I think the language says it's a yearly renewal. I think, and I don't want to speak for township officials, I think the impression is that we get first shot. That's, I think, the unwritten part of that. But again, I don't want to speak for them. But it's, from our understanding in the agreement, it's a yearly application. I think.
Okay, then I apologize. I guess not. Sorry, not in perpetuity. Then I guess first right of refusal.
I think something for this board to maybe consider is the path that the schools went. When a statement's made that more than one group is interested in using the fields, it creates a sense of equality amongst those groups. When one group is a nonprofit comprised completely of citizens versus another that's not, should they be classified different? So that's maybe a talking point for another meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we've had similar discussions in the past around things like usage fees, where, for example, there are, like, if sometimes when a group, we have our pavilion rental fees, and if you're a nonprofit putting on a fundraiser, sometimes we don't charge you that fee, or things like that. So the concept of making those kind of lists is interesting, and that's partially where I say that maybe talking to Amy and looking at how Slara schedules, and part of this could be alleviated simply by the fact of, okay, increased visibility to what is the usage that's really going on, where is the availability at, or when rather. And we can continue to work through those things, but I don't know that I have any more explicit questions at this point. Since I hijacked the middle of your thing and then just kept going with it, Lynn, I'm sorry. Did you have?
My question was, is it possible that, the board can get a copy of these schedules, since, if anybody does want to use it, they probably are going to come to the board, and we're going to be in the same situation of like, well, we don't know what the schedule is, and we don't have anything. So I would think that if they're submitting something every year, that plan, that we should have access to that every year, so that if somebody does have questions, we can look at accommodations.
Yeah, that's all. Melanie has all that.
And Melanie and I have been in talks about a little bit more detailed as the season goes on, so we can help out with a better detailed plan of what we're using.
But you've already filed this year's plan.
Correct. We blocked out the times that we know we're going to use. But this would then tell her, hey, like on Tuesday, we blocked out 5 to 9, but we're only using it from 5 to 6:30. But that 6:30 might be a makeup day if we need it, but it's tentatively open at this point because our schedule didn't need to fill that slot based on whatever would, when we actually get the teams, we line out the games, the practices, we're looking at it and submitting that to her ahead of when we actually have our registration finished and the games slotted. I'm already letting her know throughout the year, this is what we know we're going to need, and then filling in those spots once the teams come in. And if there's a team short, or a team says, hey, I don't need Friday night anymore because all the kids have a party to go to or something, then that would be something we could possibly figure out through a Google form or something, letting her know, hey, they backed out. It's just complex when you're managing 80 teams of, I'm a volunteer, so I don't have the ability to always go in and manage that one-off all the time. So
that's why I guess I say in that context, would it make things easier for you? Obviously, we'd have to talk to Amy first, but would it make things easier for you guys if it was managed through them?
So Amy runs the same way we're running through you currently. She gives me time slots and I just fill them or don't fill them, and we use them at our will. If there's something that comes up where we're not using them for more than like half a night, or we're going a whole weekend without them, I let her know, hey, we're not using them. But if it's just a one-off game here or there, one-off practice slot, that's something we don't directly communicate back to her. She doesn't manage it to the nth degree, because she just knows that we're using those fields during 5 to 9 Monday through Tuesday or whatever it would be, and 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday.
Yeah.
And Chris, and let me jump in here and ask, if I were to call Melanie tomorrow and say, hey, I understand that there may be some minor changes, Melanie would be able to provide the board, Parks Advisory Board, not a schedule of what each game is going to be for that field, but the time for the diamonds of said field A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, right?
Correct. So we only used the 2 new Atchison fields, and we submitted a request from her, which she has in there, for Monday through Friday from 5 to 9 p.m. Obviously, during the school year, we don't use them during the day. And then Saturday, I believe it was 9 a.m. until 5 or 5:30. We have it in there because she requested the evenings to be open, and then also Sunday for the community.
So let me ask this question. Let's say that the Boy Scouts, and I'm being hypothetical here.
Yep.
Boy Scout group, the Girl Scout group want to use the ball diamonds on a Saturday at 1 p.m. They would be bumped.
So she would reach out to me like she did today with the request for July and say, hey, I have this request. How does that fit in with what you're using? If it was a 1 p.m. one, that would be a little bit of a challenge, because that's kind of the middle of our game day. But we might be able to say, hey, we can give you 3 p.m. and we'll just take that last game and move it to another day of the week. We'll push it a week out, like Dean said, we try and accommodate the community's needs for organizations like that or community requests the best we can. Obviously, if it was, a 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock on a Saturday and they need to take the middle of our game schedule up, we would try and see if there's a different accommodation that we could make to make it a win-win for everybody.
Okay.
And I could expand on a little, Chris. A good example there was an independent travel team that was made up of South Line kids that applied for field through SLARA, and we worked it out. We worked it out where they got field time. They needed volunteer park because of the age group. And then back to Lynn's question, the initial schedule request is kind of a macro request because we run registration right till the 11th hour. Then we make the teams, then we draft the players. So, the timing of the request to the township and the city and the schools is kind of a macro blanket request, like Chris said. And then we dial it in with them once we get to the draft and the actual team schedule.
And when does that occur? When do you whittle it down to what you actually know?
So our draft will occur in late March. Our practice schedule would roll out for the month of April, the following week. And then our game schedule would roll out in mid-April. It gives me time to accommodate because our games start usually the first week in May and run through the end of June. And then we have the playoffs and then our All-Star weekend in early July. But that time frame would be the middle of April. I would have that laid out for April, May, and June finished. And then July for our travel teams would be pretty much laid out. And then we'd pick right back up at the end of July, August, September, early October for the fall season. And that would be done again, probably 2 or 3 weeks out from the start of the games. I would have that out. Again, until we know our registration numbers, which will be another week and a half here still. And then our draft is at the end of March. Then we know the number of teams and we start plotting out what teams can play on what fields and scheduling everything that way. Does that answer what you're looking for, Lynn?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. It's not a cut and dry answer, unfortunately. I'll give you an example. My son plays basketball through Legacy Center. And we know that on Sunday, he's going to have an 11 o'clock game. We don't know what his second game of the day is until we show up on Sunday, right? Just because of the complexity of what goes into it. They don't know what teams are going to be playing that weekend because it's more of a drop-in league than a scheduled everyday league. So it's similar to our season. We don't know up until our season's almost starting the exact game times and dates.
So if Lynn or Robert don't have any more questions, I have some things I'd like to ask real quick here just to kind of go back full circle to the field.
But I do actually have one more question. So, that's currently how you plan it. Can you change the way that you plan it?
It would be hard for us to change if we don't know our teams, right?
No, I can tell you probably have a pretty good guess about how many teams that you get. So you could probably schedule a good 90% of it.
Yeah, so that time slot that I sent to Melanie, I can tell you right now, 95% of those time slots will be 100% full. There may be a one-off here and there. There's also, like you said, there's the occasional day where you go, the first week in May, we always wonder if our season's going to start because of rain and field conditions. So you always want to build in a rain day or two throughout your schedule so that way you can finish on time. So there may be a day like that where we have it built in where we're lighter on the schedule that time so we can accommodate a rain out that we had to be made out or something. But I can tell you right now that starting May 1st through the end of June, Monday through Friday, 5 to 9, those fields would be in use and almost all day Saturday, just from the games that we would need to schedule. We're looking for 240 slots basically throughout the week if every team uses the field 3 times. And obviously these 2 fields don't accommodate 240 slots. So there's other fields that we would use through the community, but those fields definitely get used to their max. Because so yeah, I can tell you 5 to 9 Monday through Friday and Saturday is 95% filled.
Lynn, one of the challenges are the high school fields, the girls softball fields at South Lyon High, there's 3. And then at East, there's 2 softball fields. We don't have access to those until the high school season is complete. So we start in April, but there's 5 fields that we can't touch until almost 3/4 of the way through our season. So that creates those early season pressures on slots.
Are you done, Lynn?
Yep, I think so.
Does anybody else have any other questions? So I just want to start by saying that, Dean, we've talked many times on the phone personally and about, public stuff and that. I admire you. I like you. My kid played through Slayer, the, Southland Junior League. I really like the program. There's not too much bad with it. It's contributed to the township and everything else. On the other hand, Jason did present to us a presentation last month. I'm not going to go back on what I said. I said that I thought it would be a good idea for, maybe you guys to work together. I understand where you guys don't want to, using the term that you guys did, want to use a pay-for-profit organization, but I don't think that what he brings to the table either can be overlooked. One of the things that he brought up in the meeting that I made a call to him on was asking him, are you really committed to helping out in sharing the fields? And he says yes. Jason, if that's incorrect, correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea of lights or a speaker system was discussed. I mean, those are very, very costly things that I know for the junior league would be very hard to come by. I'm not saying that I'm not suggesting that doing this would buy his way in, but I mean, I certainly, he has taken a building that was, vacant and he's turned it into a good RAM business. We on the board we're an advisory board. That's it. We recently did a survey and one of the biggest needs was for kids between the ages of 13 and 18. And I think that if we could somehow figure out something to get Jason to keep his business here in Southline and promote the fields here, it would help the Parks Board out as well as the citizens, as well as you guys too. Like Robert said, I'd like to see the agreement. I'd like to see what it says. First right refusal should, you guys have put in a lot into it. So you do have that elevated, I guess, whatever you want to call it, decision process or making ability. But I also feel that there should be room for somebody else like a Jason or an everyday resident, or for that matter, any other organization group that wants to use the field one time or many times. I don't know what the right answer here is because this is a lot of new information that's hitting us. So sorry for not, sorry for sounding a little off a little bit, but whatever we can do on the board to promote the parks, area, I want to do that. I certainly, as a resident, don't want to see Jason's leave the community, leave Lyon Township and go elsewhere with that money. So with that being said, I guess what it boils down to is that before we can make a decision, I'd like to see what the agreements are. I would like to ask, the first question I'd like to ask is with your enhancements, you guys, when your presentation, Dean, you showed that you're talking to the township or would like to discuss future enhancements with the township. Is there any chance at all of working with Jason and DBAT and working with him for them to have, work with those enhancements with you guys on that and being able to give him some playing field time? I guess the second question to that though too is if it's no, then I guess what enhancements are you guys looking to make? Because I know as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay just for a baseball diamond enhancement either. Does that make sense?
So I guess let me jump in and Dean can correct me if I misspeak here too, but I don't think we're ever not willing to partner or work with people to make the community better and stronger, right? The struggle that we see is there's only 2 fields in Lyon Township. Those fields do not accommodate the junior league and other organizations being able to run at full capacity. Really what we need to do is find other alternatives to develop more fields. There's a huge depletion of fields in the entire South Lyon community. We struggle as a junior league to be able to schedule all of our games and our practices as it is, with the amount of fields that we have during the time we have them. I think if we could figure out a way to build more fields, get more out there, if there were new fields coming up and Jason contributed to them, I mean, we would take a hands-off approach to those fields, for example, right? I don't think it's a us versus him thing here. I know it comes off that way, but that's not how the junior league would position themselves, I don't believe. And I'm only speaking from what my understanding is, and Dean could probably hint to it. We want to work with everybody we can to make it better and stronger. It's just what we see now is the limitations from an infrastructure standpoint really are hindering anything from growing and developing beyond what it currently is from here.
And
But
Chris, if I could, we don't decide if he gets field time or not. So if he's going to pay to play, or however we want to put it, that's not our decision. I would say that if we were to bring a project to mind around enhancing those fields somehow, if our junior league dollar turned into $2 because the township match, and then it turned into $3 because of another organization, we'd be all about that. That's what makes communities great, when you can turn those $1 into 2 or 3. But to your point around other enhancements of the park, the South Lyon Junior League is a baseball and softball organization. So every dollar we spend on the community is going to be towards enhancement of baseball and softball. It's who they are and how they're built. So
I guess what I struggle with is that I understand, and it's not I'm not taking this as you guys versus them, or I don't think you guys, I think your presentation's been very good. I don't think Jason's saying that either. But I guess what I struggle with is here's a guy that's holding up his hand saying, hey, I want to work with you guys. I'm willing to do something to help the fields or do whatever. We can't make a connection at all. There's nothing that, I mean, that's for us on the South Lyon, for us on the Parks Advisory Board, this is what we hoped for. This is what we like, because then it makes more eyes. It puts more eyes on the parks. It puts more eyes on the township board to allow us to, recently told you we did a survey. And so the projects that we're looking at getting done would help because we got more people coming there to support it. So, that's the part of it that I wish that we could somehow make a bridge for. That's where I guess I'm a little lost with it.
And Chris, I remember the survey that came out for the township and everything, and I agree with you. I think the projects that the township is looking at are positives, and I think that's where we struggle with the infrastructure, right? It's just not big enough to accommodate everybody at this point. So what limitations does that mean, and how does the township handle that is the ultimate question. Like if we were to say, hey, DBAT can use the fields Friday, Saturday, Sunday, for 6 weekends out of our spring season, let's just say, right? That's 8 games on a Saturday and 4 games on a Friday that we're now down. That's 12 games every weekend. He does that. That would be games that our junior league wouldn't be able to play. And I don't have another field just to switch these over to and say, okay, I'm going to take these 12 games and go play them over at the high school fields, or I'm going to go play them at McCaddy, or I'm going to go play them. We're literally, again, busting at the seams with the teams and the fields that we have. So the other option would be we would have to limit our enrollment, which would be turning kids away. And that's the last thing we want to do as an organization.
We're all ears. We're all ears, really.
Well, let me ask you this question, because that's one of the other questions I did have. I was doing the math, and like you said, it's 240 times that you guys are using those fields based on 80 teams. How for sure are you that you're going to have 80 teams?
As of right now, I have 80 teams. I may have more.
All right.
Yeah. As of our current enrollment, we have 80 teams.
Maybe that opens up the door for him to take over that other portion.
Sure. Okay. Sure. Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, as of today, and I use that 80 team number because I knew that's what our enrollment is through today. I don't want to give you guys a pie in the sky number and then come back in 2 weeks and have someone call it out on me that, hey, you only have 40 teams and you told me you had 80. No, we're using what our current numbers are at this point.
Okay.
So how many fields do you currently schedule on?
Question next.
So currently
it's 19.
I think it's less than that now because we don't have all the school fields.
Okay. I just know, if I look at the last time we did an updated inventory in our 2019 Parks and Rec master plan, I'm seeing 29 baseball fields and 10 softball fields. The caveat that I'll say to that is that 10 of those baseball fields are actually in the ITC Sports Park, which is Novi. So
yeah, those are not ours.
But
I can do them in my head and add them up for you quick. Like for example, Bartlett Elementary School for the community schools right now is an unplayable field. There's major ruts in the field that have to be redone.
Okay.
There's Salem Elementary that's not being used currently. There is the high school fields we don't use hardly at all through, like Dean said, about 3/4 of our spring season. So really, we're using 4 fields from the city, 2 fields from you guys, and then every elementary school field.
Bromer,
So that's only
is 8.
Yeah.
2 at Sayre for the smaller kids is 10.
Okay.
So probably 12 or 13 up until the high school fields are released.
Yeah.
And that's.
I have 2 things to go off of that from, basically. One thing on the fact that you said that, okay, so the school, like the some of the school fields you can't use until the end of the school year. I assume you have the same rough total need of time per week throughout the season, right? You don't like all of a sudden like have that much more at the end of your season. So
our travel teams actually schedule more of their games once the high school and softball teams are finishing up their season. So that last 2 or 3 weeks, they do tend to use the fields more than they're using in the spring.
Okay, because otherwise, I was going to say if you're making it work without those in the early part of the season,
yeah,
then what if we just did like a swap and said, okay, then
Sure.
because those fields have opened up, you can offload and concentrate more there, and then we could free up some space in that other time. But if
Sure.
by the travel teams, I understand.
And then this year, just to give you guys an understanding too, they pushed back the high school season 1 full week. So that's going to push back the release of the high school fields a full week. Based on, again, they could open up a week early, they could open up a week later, depending on when a team may fall in or out of their playoffs, their championships, their high school playoffs.
Okay, so the other piece to that then of the inventory question is, I guess I'm not a baseball person. My finger is not on the pulse of it like 3 of you. What are the trends in demand? Because when I look at another page in our plan here, there are, there's guidelines from the National Parks and Recreation Association that tells you kind of targeted, per capita, per how much population in an area, how many of what type of facility should you have? And according to those numbers, we have a heavy surplus of baseball and softball fields. I understand that is not the experience that you guys are living, but as we look to our future planning of, say we do go to develop a new park or existing or unutilized area in our existing park, and there's all this competing, everybody wants that space for their thing. There is a sentiment that I have had expressed to me from obviously other parties
Sure.
that says, well, it's always let's add more baseball fields. They have a lot of baseball fields. So I guess I just want to understand, maybe, I know you're at your kind of capacity basically right now, it sounds like from your perspective, but how are the trends changing? Like, has your enrollment been steady? Has it been increasing? Has it been decreasing?
So our overall enrollment is slightly down this year and last year due to COVID, I really believe. We were at about 1,000 kids 2 years ago, and we're a little over, right around 900 this year. There are still parents that we get on a daily basis that email us, what are your COVID restrictions? Okay, I'm not comfortable with my kids still playing, and we're going to have that, I think, at least throughout this year. After this year, I actually see our enrollment staying pretty steady. I don't believe it's dropping. The amount of people moving into the township, the amount of people moving into the actual community itself is growing exponentially. I mean, 3,000 new homes going here, 300 going over here, whatever it would be. Even the school district understands that their facilities aren't up to par, and that's why the bond was asked for, because they need to get more facility usage out of it. So I see field usage being a huge priority moving forward, because I think whether it's our organization or other organizations, overall usage is going to grow in the next few years for this community based on the housing market, where we're seeing more housing going up and things like that, and the population growth. If this was 5-6 years ago, field use might be okay, but I see it growing more and more.
Robert, it's a multi-layered question for sure. There's an argument to be made that while junior league's numbers are going to go down because there's all this for-profit Legacy, Total Sports around us. There's hundreds of South Lyon kids playing in other organizations right now. The other side of that coin is there's been a move away from football because of the contact sport and whatnot. That's part of it. You've got the growth piece of Lyon Township and the school district. And not to sound braggart, but the South Lyon Junior League is one of the finer organizations that do this in the state. So I think we are a bit of an anomaly in terms of other communities because of that. And to your point around, other spaces to build fields, things like that. Yeah, I was waist deep in those conversations too. And it's a tough call because, do we need it? Could it be used for something else and get more use? Great question.
Because we talked about, the area where that 300 foot field could go. If we put that 300-foot field there, then that means, I can't put a multi-purpose field there.
100%. And selfishly, I think part of the reason it was a hard decision was because we were the only organization that had matching funds.
Yes. Yeah. And that is, I will credit, and through any of this, I do appreciate the contributions you guys have made over the years. I don't want any of this to come off that's not the case.
Yeah, no. And it makes it a hard answer because there's lots of shades of gray in that for sure.
Yeah. And I don't know, Jason, do you have any insights on those trends? Do you agree? Do you want to add anything or?
Yeah. So, we wouldn't have opened up this place if there wasn't a growth in youth baseball and softball for sure. We know it's there based on I could pull out our demographics reports that I created when we went through the whole aspect of building this. But yeah, there's a significant increase in baseball usage. So I will say there's a big shift to where these travel programs that come in and work with us, we've seen their numbers go up and we've seen some rec numbers go down, and that's what we're trying to protect from as well. Because we agree 100% that every kid should have a place to play, and so that's why we don't own teams. We're neutral in that respect. So, but we do see those trends of going up significantly, especially with the seasonality of where baseball falls.
All right.
So do we have an evaluation of these 29 fields anywhere that we have, like what their usage is, and what they can be used for, what their shape?
No, but I don't know, maybe the junior league does, but the only thing I'll say to that, Lynn, from our perspective is that we only control 4 of the inventoried fields, and in the junior league's opinion, and I don't disagree with this, only 2 of those 4 are usable. That 29 from our inventory, the way that it takes into account anything that's in like our service radius, basically. So it includes township fields, it includes school district fields, it includes city fields, and it also included Novi fields that are on the border at the what is that? It's like 8 Mile and Napier.
Yeah, it's Napier Road. Yeah.
Jason, I have a question for you. Have you, with the model the way it is, do you know of any other organizations? It was pointed out that Brighton, good or bad, Brighton's rec leagues were stopped because of something like what you're offering. Do you have any other examples where it's the opposite, where maybe a community worked with a group like yours and it benefited everybody?
Yeah. So, it wasn't the Brighton going to Legacy. It's the fact that Legacy owns teams, right? That their job is to recruit players to play on their teams for profit, right? That's the big shift in the model shift. For what we do or what we want to build, it's kind of open to everybody. We don't, if it's all South Lyon teams, great. They're phenomenal players then. So what was the tail end of that question again?
I guess has a group like yours ever worked with another municipality to, or work together with them to do anything?
Yeah. So currently the Livonia Junior League actually uses our facility exclusively, and we've got nothing but positive feedback, increase in numbers that they reported. As a matter of fact, they've extended their usage indoor for another month or so. So they've been very happy. Northville, same way. They use our facility exclusively. I think there's one more they use for outdoor, but the communities that have come to us have seen growth, because I think we're pretty good at growing baseball as a sport, and as far as the model goes.
To clarify, when you say they're using your facility exclusively, this is like as a practice venue, right? Like they don't play
That's
games
correct.
in the facility.
Nope, correct. It's winter training when they can't go outside.
Now, in the summertime, when the Livonia has their fields open, do they still stay with you? Do they practice at your facility, or do they exclusively back at their fields?
Nope. Sometimes they will come. Their fields are open. Well, probably already open now, and they still have extended with us. They envision extending with us just for some specialty training and other activities that they're probably not going to be able to get on field.
Okay. All right.
So I think the differentiator is between a field and what we provide is we have a very high tech facility, right? Just like we were going to do with the tournament fields by offering, sonar, radar, data, video transmission, all that good tech, high tech stuff. We do that in facility, right? And we're looking to take that to a tournament level.
Is there?
I don't have. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Robert.
All right. Just to clarify again, because we've brought up, rec participation and community things, and they're not necessarily the same. Does SLARA actually run any baseball or softball things, or does Junior League just occupy that space?
Yeah, they in the past have run some T-ball clinics, but they've never run a league at all.
Last year, I think they actually ran a 6-week T-ball league that started up at the end of our season, basically. And then additionally, they will run camps and clinics through their program, but they don't run any youth baseball or softball leagues other than that one-off T-ball league.
Okay.
Well, with that being said, gentlemen, what I'd like to then do is I think we've talked this pretty much as we can. I'd like to summarize to where we stand and then what we're going to do moving forward, at least for the board. And if Robert, if I misrepresent anything, please say something. Dean, Chris, or Jason, if there's something you'd like to add or something that you'd like clarified or you want to add something, please let me know as well. But I think that you guys bring your presentation was good. Thank you. With that being said, I think that we need as a board to decide what we need to look at a couple things. First of all, I'm going to request through Melanie to get an agreement. We understand, Chris, like I said, my question that may not say, 9 to 12 for B League, but you'll know that when we look at it, we'll know that that's the field time that you're setting off, correct? Okay. And then I think second, what we need to do as a board, and Lynn, Chris, we would like to discuss it as far as making sure what we want to do moving forward to support everybody as best we can. So we need some time with that. And I think that by next month would be enough time to do that. It's the start of the season. It would, it's certainly going to help Jason out to know what direction to go in. I guess the only other question I have outside of that is that if one of the board members has a question for any one of you three, Dean, Chris, or Jason, how do we get in touch with you? Would you prefer an email, a phone call? What would be the best way of going about that? Because I'm sure that one of us will.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for the other guys. I'm at your service at a cell phone number of 810-923-2959. And I can be reached at dean.whitcomb@icloud.com.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dean.
I provided my email to you guys, Chris, through an email we exchanged. I'll be happy to provide my phone number through there too, if you'd like.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as we got a way of communicating with you guys, that way if someone let's say Erin isn't here tonight. So let's say she has a question. Out of respect for her, I want her to be able to reach out to you guys. That's all.
Yep, totally available for whatever you guys need.
Great. And then the last thing I'll say is I want to thank you guys, all three of you. Again, I hope that, we're just advisory board. So we're just trying to do what's best for everybody. And with that said, we appreciate your time in coming here tonight. So thank you guys. All three of you.
And I think Jason, if you could get us that an idea of how much time you think you would need the fields for, so that when we do get their schedule, we can take a look at that and see what could be accommodated and what can't be accommodated.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and we can talk a little bit about that too. I think if it's unfortunately a sparse hour game here and there, it probably isn't a full match, right? I think we're all both in the same boat with that regard, and And then I think the last thing I'll add is that if we need to run these tournaments as a nonprofit organization, which we also operate a scholarship fund as a nonprofit, it's fine. We can do it as that if that's part of the board's consideration.
On that note, then you have the proper documentation and all that to provide the I forget what they call it. They got numbers.
501(c)(3)s. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And you guys have all that. Great. Okay, great. All right. Well, then other than that, unless anybody else has any questions or comments, I have those 3 things listed here for what we're going to do. And then hopefully next month we'll have an answer to you guys. And hopefully you guys can come back then and we can discuss then what we thought, what we're going to prepare to move forward as the township and helping you guys. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna stick around for old time's sake, if that's all right.
Please, Dean, do.
Feel free.
It'd be nice to have some company.
So I'm going to suggest that also checks off our new business item A on the baseball fields. We've discussed this, and we'll just consider that, okay, we jumped out of order there and call it good. Does that sound appropriate?
I wanted to talk about the new item of business is B, the COVID.
But before that, sorry, since technically we were still on our presentation, we have to have our call to the public to make sure.
I'm sorry. You're right. No, you're right. I forgot. I saw that here and I forgot all about it. So, John, do we have anybody from call from the public from anybody or no?
There is no one waiting for a call in the meeting. For anyone watching on YouTube, you can join at any time if you want. And if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, you would dial *9 into your phone. If we could wait a moment in case anyone wants to dial in. There's a brief delay between YouTube and the meeting. So just to give potential callers a second if they wanted to make a comment. And again, if they,
I was gonna say, would anybody object to giving it a minute to allow that delay?
No, I mean, we can wait a moment, but I would just say also, like, if someone does call in and raise their hand, let us know and we can decide to take it at that point still.
of course.
Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, and I'd just like to remind the people watching one more time, you can join and press *9 to raise your hand to let us know if you'd like to ask a question. It has been a moment and we do not have any callers. If you'd like to continue on with the meeting.
All right. With that being said, then, if someone does, John, just like what Robert said, please let us know.
Of course.
We'll move on into the new business item B, and that was the COVID networks free online for seniors. Just to bring everybody up to speed that's watching, what happened was that I got an email from an organization that offers free online support during the COVID times for seniors in our community to talk and discuss the COVID matters related to them. It's a website-based support network system. Lynn, did you get a chance to look at that?
Yeah, it looks a little bit outside of our scope.
Well, I was kind of torn on it because I thought maybe this should go to the, maybe somebody, the director over at Abbey Park or something. But Robert and I talked because he was helping me with the transition. And I was torn on this. I think that we should mention it at the very least. We don't have to really discuss it, but I agree with you, Len. I think that it's something that's for, it's outside of our group. I would say that. I'll respond to the person with you guys all on it and just simply say we forwarded on to the appropriate people for our township.
Yeah, and
I think Abbey Park director.
I would differ with that. Abbey Park is a private organization. We can, if we send it to them, I think we need to send it to all of the similar facilities. But my suggestion was going to be that we forward this to the South Lyon Senior Center, which is again similar to SLARA. It's basically the people, the communities that make up the school district offering joint services, and that we send it their way to handle because they have the connection with those with that population more than we do.
All right, no problem. Then that's what we'll do then. I just figured Abby, because it has a, for Lyon Township, that's our.
I don't think there's anything wrong with also sending it directly to those facilities. I just,
No, you're right. You're right. I'm agreeing with you.
Go to Abbey Park. It should also go to, sorry, the names escape me, but like the ones down on 10 Mile and yeah.
All right, so I'll forward that over to South Lyon Senior Center. Okay, and so we discussed that. Moving on then, if there's any questions about that. Okay, not. So,
So we hopped all around, but I think we're going back up now to unfinished business.
correct.
Actually 9, we haven't done anything with or any items sent to the administrative team township board, and the answer is yes, because we had approved, right, for the money to go.
Yeah, I was gonna just do that under 10E just because it has its
Okay.
own agenda. Usually the 9, I mean, I can give an update that it was approved, but and this is, if the board wants to do this differently, that's fine. I just typically kept 9 as a space to just be a brief update on like something that was already a final action that we took that didn't really need more stuff.
No, that's fine. I'll start off with the unfinished business then under 10A. Start with that, the sled hill. So at this point right now, I've talked to Nicole from Republic. She and I are in agreement that at this point, we don't feel that if there's any snow that does come, it's not going to be any accumulation of enough to quote unquote be to constitute sledding. So we're going to table this until September of next year, or well, this year, I'm sorry. And at that point, we're going to approach the township, and after we have our board meeting in October and get the proper fencing and show them the location. Her and I actually walked the hill up and down, side to side, just to get a good feel for it. And there shouldn't be any major changes to it. So it's going to be on the east side that faces the, I guess, the neighborhood that's over there. I don't know how to explain. You'd have to pull it up on Google Maps and look, but that's where we're going to propose this to be. And one recommendation that she did have that they may be willing to help us out with is that in front of the plastic fence that we were thinking about putting in there, maybe putting some stacks of hay or straw, whatever we can use to soften a blow of somebody, a young kid that doesn't know what he's doing or that goes that way. And I thought that was a good idea by her. So that's where we stand with that issue. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll move on. No? Okay, then. 11 or 10B, the maintenance plan.
So I followed up with John on that. He had not had a chance to review it himself. He did send it over to Richard, and Richard did give me a call earlier today. I was in another meeting for work. I missed his call, and I did not have a chance to get back to him before this meeting. But it sounds like we're gonna talk to Richard on that. He just, in his voicemail, he just kind of had indicated that he thinks he's doing most of those items on a similar or more frequent basis than what we had specified, but he wanted to kind of talk about just some of, what are we really looking for and why is this coming up? I can call him back, or if anyone else wanted to work directly on this now that we have the person identified that we're going to deal with. If anybody wants to do that, I'm happy to relinquish it.
No, I don't think that they're really, I'll be honest with you about it. I think that if that's what Richard's saying, I just think we need to verify with them what it is that our concerns are with both Republic and our last meeting. If you want, I can draft up an email for you on that part and send it over so that when you're talking to them, it's addressed. But
okay, well, the key point, yeah, we have a person identified to talk with now, and we can move forward with that.
All right. Are there any questions on that, Lynn? Anybody? All right, moving on then. the playground equipment, play structure. So Erin called me today, about a half hour before the meeting, and said she couldn't make it. She is at home. She's going to try to watch the meeting, as I said, and follow up with us. However, she did send over to the board the pricing for the playground equipment and structures and that. She wants us to take a look at it. At next month's meeting, we're going to decide between the two what one we're going to present to the board to get that approved so we can get that in. And I guess the turnaround time, and I don't want to, I'm not quoting, don't quote me on this. I guess the turnaround time is only 4 to 6 weeks to get that put in, cemented, and to be done. So I was actually shocked by that. But I said to Lynn or Erin, I said, hey, you worked hard on this. Why don't you present it? And she said, yeah. But again, she wants us to be able to make a decision at the next board meeting. So she's going to send that over, or probably already has.
Yeah, she sent some stuff before the meeting started.
So that's where we stand with that. I would suggest that if anybody has any questions, follow up with her on that as well, because I know that.
Well, so one thing that I had asked was, if it was possible, because I saw the quotes for, for what is it? It's 5 to 12. I can't remember what the age range is, right? But it also looks like on one of the quotes that you can have stuff that's for 13 plus as well. And so my question was, okay, well, what if we wanted to expand someday in the future? Because certainly the survey said that the 13 plus group was also being underserved by the park. What would if we were going to want to expand something later in the future to add 13 plus, would we structure it differently as far as the 13 plus has to be at least this far away if you built something, or it can be integrated on one side and that's allowable. Something so that we can think about how we can maybe serve that demographic as well. Maybe not necessarily as part of this particular project, but maybe as an expansion to it in a couple of years.
Well, Lynn, I can't speak for the board, but what I would say is that I don't. And I hate to be blunt about it. I'm not trying to I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I don't think that there's a great demand for 13 to 18-year-olds for playground equipment or structures for that matter. If I'm interpreting you the correct way, then what you're saying is that you would like to at least secure some property for that. If that's the case, I guess we could talk about that. If you wanted to identify a place over in the park that is currently available, that would be fine. But I think the grader needs to fill what we're doing right now, and then maybe add on to that later if that need exists.
Well, I think that's what I'm asking. I'm asking is, the site plan that we have that's been scoped out for this 5 to 12. If we wanted to add something 13 plus, could we? And if not, can we change the site plan in such a way that would be a possibility in the future if we wanted to do it?
I mean, most of these systems are modular in nature.
Right, which is why I would think we should be able to, unless there's some sort of safety laws that they have to be, that the 13 plus needs to be further away so that the younger kids aren't playing on it. I don't know what kind of.
I don't think there's any kind of strict requirement to that effect. Typical practice, what I've seen in park design, you have your you do have a distinct
area, your older,
in your far younger end, but it's usually more of a your under 5 area is separated from your 5 and up area. I don't know that there's really necessarily a need for a separation in area for anything higher than that, but that's just my opinion. And
that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, if there was a greater need for it, then, or it does show a greater need for it, then yeah, I'm all in support of that. But I think as of right now, I think utilizing it the way we are would be the best route to continue to go down. I don't think that we need to secure or do anything else any different than what we're doing now. It's just my opinion, but I'll listen to anything anybody has to say.
Yeah.
Well, my thought was, since all this stuff is modular, that we should probably put that, consider that in a growth as growth potential.
Yeah,
design in such a way that we could.
We do have the I mean, we all have the emails. That might not be a bad thing to send back as a question to whoever did the design to say, you know, can this be done such that we can add on to an end of it later? I don't know. That would be a question for them. In my head, they probably would have to design it so that it's capped off, and then you might have to tear out a part of it that you're then not going to use anymore to be able to add on. Like if you think about it, most of them have, you know, some sort of like a pathway flow to them. And there's going to be some sort of an end cap that I would imagine, you know, there's basically like a wall panel, if you want to think about it that way, that has to go on because they're not going to leave just an open ledge.
Right.
But in theory, I imagine you could take that panel off and add another module from that point in the future. But I don't know. I had never really thought about that aspect of it, but it's an interesting question.
I went ahead and noted to see if that's it, to your point, Robert. If Aaron, I'm sorry, Lynn, if you'd like to email Aaron and see if that's something that's viable, then yeah, maybe we could take a look at it. But as it stands,
I had actually already emailed before.
All right, perfect. Then. Why don't we see what she gets an answer to that, and we can talk about it more next month. I guess it's where we stand with it because no one really has a definite answer. Am I correct or no?
I mean, yeah, we don't have an answer to it, but
right, okay.
But I wanted to bring it up now since we talked about, you know, voting on stuff next week. We may want to have, there may need to be some modifications if we decide, is that something with it that we would like to consider in a build is the ability to expand to something like that.
Yeah.
If it's going to cost more money to expand for a group of 13 to 18-year-olds, then I say no. And the reason
well, it won't at this time. It would if we decided to add another module. I'm just asking if we want to make sure that we can design so that we have that potential for the future.
At this time, I would say no. That's just my opinion, no. But I mean, Aaron's not here for a vote, and we don't know. Maybe an add-on isn't all. Maybe an add-on could be done. Who knows? That's why I'm saying I don't know. That's why I keep saying at this time I don't know. It's a good question. Just don't.
The other line of questioning I see from the emails is kind of this timeline question. Like Aaron's latest email here was talking about installation timelines and things where, you know, what their lead time is and stuff like that. And I guess I don't know what maybe the board's expectations were, but in my head, as much as I would love to say, oh yeah, let's do this year, I don't think that's realistic because this was not an item that was included in this year's budget. It's not to say it can't happen, but it would be, we'd be asking for something that wasn't planned for. And so there are mechanisms to allow that to happen, but I think we have a harder argument to make to justify it. The other difference is that if we were going to use the play structures as something to try and fund through a grant, I'm not sure that these designs that we got back would score very well.
No, not at all.
They're not inaccessible, but they don't really, a lot of the grants right now prioritize what the current buzzword is, inclusive play, I believe, where the idea is you're not just making something that's merely ADA accessible, you're really trying to cater to getting people of all abilities and whatever to use these things. And it's not just the physical fronts that they look at. So it's not just, oh, can I wheel onto this ramp, or can I, get onto this swing easily? it's also looking at different cognitive and social situations. One of the things are, there's different elements that they have from these catalogs that talk about different sensory things that can I'm not trying to be callous and say like, oh, well, we should design this around what will score well to get us disability points. But if we're looking to fund this through a grant, those are the kind of things that can make a difference between a successful application and not.
So we've missed the grant time for this year.
Correct. Yes. Sorry, to clarify, we've missed the DNR grant cycle for this year. That doesn't mean that there aren't other grants out there that could still be applied for, but yeah.
So what are your thoughts on how likely this is to be approved by the board for this year anyhow?
Well, that's the whole thing, Lynn. We would have to, in order to do, like, if it's going through a grant, there's no approval process. You got to wait to get the grant process done. And in that grant process, as he explained, there's a scoring system. And that timeline for doing it can be a month, it could be a few months.
If we were to try and fund a playground equipment, playscape, whatever project through a DNR run grant, the timeline would be applications due roughly April 1st of 2022. And they would probably not make their award decisions until December, which means we'd be looking at 2023 construction. If we use other grants, the timelines are all variable based on the grants themselves. And if we fund it ourselves without grant money, then, it's whenever the township is willing to put up the cash. And I would say it's not a very high probability that they would just do that this year. But if we want to do it next year, so if we want to look at a 2022 construction, we need to have a solid plan going into budget talks for 2022 to get that included.
So by September.
Yeah, I would say that's a good goal to at least get some more solid idea of what we want.
Yeah, because they do budget talks. They start budget talks, what, October, November?
Usually, yeah. It varies, but.
Are we set with this subject matter then? So what I have is that we will follow up with Lynn then to vote going forward on the two plans for next month's meeting, correct?
Well, no, I think we're going to discuss some of the plans and decide whether or not we need to add ADA stuff. And I don't think.
Hold on, I'm going to back up. Erin did her homework. She presented two plans at next board's meeting. We're going to decide what two we're going to move forward with giving to the township to present to the township, I should say, to move forward with getting the structure playground equipment installed. That's what she provided to us.
I don't know, Dean, you started to.
No, it's just wondering if you'd entertain a comment from the public on this.
Oh, please do.
And it's just an idea, might be a bad one, but I've been down this road. I know Robert has too, where we missed deadlines on grants. Perhaps if the PAB requested funds for a grant writing professional for next year, and that's where the money request went, and it got in the hands of professional that landed you guys a 6-figure natural resources grant that really could make you dangerous. Just a thought.
Well, Dean, we had to have Chris Drews in at one time. He was really good at those grants.
Yeah, but there's companies out there that specifically do that, and it might be worth an investment or at least some research into it.
It's funny that you say that, because at our last board meeting last month, that was something, I don't know if I talked to Robert about it. Again, he was helping me transition over. I think that's something that either publicly I said or privately I spoke to him about as well. It's an idea that we really want to explore, because to your point, it would help out. It just help out everybody. It would help you out as an organization coming here, because then we can identify you. Okay, hey, we need ball diamonds. What do we do? Maybe there's some grant money that can help that. You know what I mean? I'm making that up. You get where I'm coming from. So But like you already know and had brought up, they're pretty, they're pretty strict. I mean, that was one of the big things with the 11-mile Milford Park. They had they had to go back to the drawing board on a couple of things. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it playground equipment, Robert, that they had to redo a couple times? Or something. I forget what, but they had to redo some things if they wanted the grant money. I don't recall what it was.
I don't know exactly what you're referring to answer.
When they applied for the grant over 11-mile Milford, didn't they have some hiccups with something, with how stuff was or something? I forget what it was exactly.
I mean, yeah, we've had issues with our trust fund grant applications for that site, but we also separately had a private donor that you could think of as a grant specifically for play structures at that site that fell through due to the timelines mainly, I would say.
So let me add this, hold on.
And I guess just while we're in this lull, I personally, I greatly appreciate Aaron getting the ball rolling and bringing back these proposals, but I'm not a big fan of either proposal personally. So I know you said your thought was to next month say, well, which one are we picking and push it forward, but I don't want us to just push something forward to push it forward because it's there and we want to pick one. We need to make sure that we're looking at what the best product is for the right price and our needs.
Well, and at that next month's board meeting, yes, that's what we can decide. If your vote is for that, and I mean, that's what we can do at next. That's why the meeting's for that. But it's not going to be tabled because we're talking about adding an addition for a future group that we're not even sure about as of right now, is what I'm trying to get at. And it's not that I'm trying to dismiss you, Lynn, on your idea. It's just, though, that was not what was presented for Aaron to go out and research and do and bring back to us. It was presented, hey, find the group for this target group. She did that. She has the funding for it and everything else. And at next month's board meeting, we can talk about that amongst ourselves, because maybe you bring up something that I agree with you on that I wasn't looking at with it, Robert or Lynn.
I don't think anyone's saying that she didn't do what was asked. I think what's occurred, though, is that other questions have arisen, and I think it's entirely appropriate to try to get answers to those questions before the next meeting.
But in the sense of what, though? I mean, if we're looking at,
if Lynn wants to know, can we add these things, then there's no reason we shouldn't ask the vendors, can we add these things, and have that information to discuss the next time we discuss it.
And that's why I said you should email Aaron on that. So then that way, when we come to the next board's meeting, we're prepared for that. That's all I'm saying.
Right. But what you had said is that we were going to vote on this plan or that plan. And I don't think that we're at that point. I think we're at the point where she presents the plans. We look at them, we discuss them, we decide if we do like them as they are and that we want to go forward with one, or if we have other questions and we want to modify them.
But isn't the purpose of her sending that over right now what you guys should be? We should be looking at it now and sending her those questions so that at the next board meeting, if you still feel that way, Robert, you can say, hey, I don't feel good about either plan because of this. Or in your case, Lynn, hey, I don't feel good voting on it because of this. Not because it's held up because someone didn't want to ask a question prior. I'm not trying to be rude about it. I'm just saying that's why she sent it out already so that we can make that decision at next month's board meeting. Correct? Am I wrong on that? I kind of thought
that, it would be kind of go the same way in the ice rink, where somebody made a presentation, showed a couple different designs. We talked it over, we kind of whittled it down, we modified them, and we came up to a consensus of what everybody thought would be the best thing to move forward, rather than voting on A or B.
But I guess where I'm lost in the whole transition, she's got 2 bids out there. She's presented 2 bids to us. Why can't we ask our questions prior to next month's board meeting and be ready to decide what we want to do then? If it's not to vote on it, fine. But I mean, going back to get more research done, unless it's something that would drastically affect the vote. I guess I'm lost with that. We can't.
Well, really, I'd like Aaron to present the stuff to kind of go through everything.
Correct.
And then I'm sure there will be questions.
I don't think either of you are terribly at odds here. I think we're just kind of talking ourselves in circles. So
yes.
let's just agree that we'll try and get some questions answered over the course of the next month, get any more information that we need so we can discuss it next time when Aaron's here.
All right, fine. That sounds, I agree with that. That makes sense. So at this time, then I'll move on with D, and that is the bike ramps. Guys, look, I've been talking to 2 or 3 different organizations, and the one organization isn't even an organization, it's a club. What I was finally told to do was call, there's a mountain bike group, and I'm trying to find the name of it. I had it wrote down here somewhere, sorry. I got given their name and number, and what they do is they actually do training at some of the local parks. And I was told one of them is through Kensington. I did call Kensington today to ask if they have a club that's there.
Are you just talking about the Michigan Mountain Bike Association?
I think that's what it's called, yes. They had another name for it or something. But anyways, I had said to them, do they use a course for training? They said yes. A lot of the guys use it to train, and girls use it to train for, instead of running events. A lot of older people now are doing decathlons with swimming and biking instead of running because it's hard on the joints. So she's supposed to get me a name and contact tomorrow. But I mean, I've had a real struggle with this. There isn't a quote unquote group or organization. And I've made many calls. I've called other municipalities, Auburn Hills, Troy, Wyandotte. I've even
Were you able to get in touch with the vendor that I shared at last meeting?
Yes. No phone call back.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the other thing, though, that's the other problem, Robert. A lot of these people that head up these organizations, or groups, I should say, they work during the day, a regular full-time job. So if I do hear from somebody, it's generally like on a Sunday afternoon, which I don't mind. That's fine. I'll talk to them. But I just don't have an update other than to tell you guys I've been trying on this. And if somebody else knows a better way, please, let me know. I think I told you, Robert, when we were talking at the beginning of the month, I was having a difficult time with this one. So right now it's just on hold until I can find somebody that'll come to our meeting. And not a club either, an organization, because some of these clubs they don't pay or do anything. They sign their names on a piece of paper and they go on the internet and create a website, and that's it. So I don't think that would fly as a legit club talking to the township on stuff. But give me some time and I'll work on it. If you guys have any other questions, I'll go ahead and answer them. But if not, I'll move on. All right, I'll move on then. And that is for 10E. And I'll turn this over to you, Robert, the movies in the park.
So yes, we got our approval. Very happy about that. I'm currently going back and forth with the vendors, trying to make a determination of which one will be able to best accommodate us. We're looking at sometime in May at the moment. The exact date would be determined based on their scheduling availability primarily. Though I would like to know if you guys have any opinion, input, whatever, on days, like, what day of the week kind of days, not necessarily specific dates, though if you have specific dates that you think should be avoided or targeted, we can talk about that as well. The time itself would be just kind of set by when it falls in the year, because it's just, basically just after sunset when it gets dark enough to do is when it would start. Once the date is secured with the rental company for the screen, at that point, I'll secure the porta potty rentals and set up the actual movie licensing agreement, which is the other question outstanding here, or a couple questions, I guess, is the, preferences and input on when to have it, then ideas on either specific movies or methods of selection for the movie. And then 3 would be our marketing plan on this. So I guess.
I'd like to comment on this. The first thing is this last thing you said about the marketing plan. One of the things that I was talking about that would help promote this, I think, a little bit better than previous is maybe to look at maybe some non-conventional ideas. Maybe we, some of the bigger communities in the area, such as Tanglewood, and that go to approach their HOA about getting into their quote unquote newsletters if they have one, or websites if they have that. That's what I mean by non-conventional. Then that way it's more direct to the residents. The other thing that I was going to ask you about for marketing is would they pay to have something put in the Observer online and both paper?
I don't think we can do that. There's certain terms with the licensing agreement with the movie. You're prohibited from using certain types of advertising, like, and I believe like newspaper ads are one of them.
No, and I knew that I knew
I'm wrong on that. We can look at it, but
okay. As far as the movie venue goes, as I said at the last board meeting, you guys can, I'll support it for whatever you guys decide. I think though that we have to, I don't know, maybe Dean can offer an opinion on it since he is a member of the audience tonight, or Brian. I think that should be divided up a little bit, maybe, because you don't want to play a strawberry shortcake movie for the young ones, knowing that a 13, 14, 15-year-old's there watching it. Maybe a time differential of after 9 o'clock, you could play a PG movie.
There's only one movie that we're picking. It's just a pilot.
I thought we were doing 2.
No, it's a pilot run. So I did look through I looked through the different movies. From both the Criterion and
before we get to the specific films, can we talk about scheduling first?
How about May 21st?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll be drunk. It's my birthday.
It's not gonna, that way it's not on the Memorial Day weekend, because a lot of people may go away for the Memorial Day weekend. It's late enough in the year, or in the month, that we would have enough time to try and promote it. And it's a Friday, so since it can't start until it's dark, people don't have to worry about, getting up for work or anything in the morning.
I guess that's my primary thing is like, okay, rank your days. Like, is Friday your first choice, and then would Saturday be your second choice? And then, if let's say all of the Fridays and Saturdays are booked, what do we do? What's your next choice? Would we go to a Thursday?
No, but hold on. I want to ask something, because when we were originally doing this and talking about it, the idea came about that we wanted to see how this was going to work.
Yes.
Correct? And we agreed to do it as a pilot.
Yes.
Right.
To see if it worked. So I like the idea of what you just said, Robert. Try one or the other. I would lean on Dean or Brian to maybe make a comment here. I'd really like to hear a different viewpoint on it, but I have no problem starting it on a Friday like Lynn has suggested. That's fine. But I also think that maybe we should accommodate a Saturday, and and decide maybe throughout the week a day to do it, like maybe a Sunday, and we do it in the
but we only get one.
We only get one.
The funding was only for a single movie, single night. That's all we get.
Well, I got kids that live at home, and I know that Brian does too, and I think Dean still has one at home too. But I would suggest that, for me anyways, as a parent, it would make it a whole heck of a lot easier if we could do it on a Saturday. The reason for it is that I'm not rushing home from work, rushing to get dinner, and then rushing to get to the area to watch the movie.
But it's not showing till it's dark.
But I mean, if I don't get home till 6 o'clock and I want to change, relax for a minute, eat some dinner, and that, it's now 7:30, 8. I mean, it's just, look, like I said,
okay with a Saturday. I have nothing against Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have nothing against Friday either. I just think it would probably be a better day. But we got 2 parents on that we can ask here that are here tonight. Why don't we see what they say? Dean or Brian, if you want to
Yeah,
comment.
Yeah, so I can offer an opinion, I guess. You know, as a parent of younger children, Saturday nights are primarily a better night just because a lot of times they're, you know, with school still be in session that in May. So my primary night would be a night. I think Saturday would be the primary night. That's a lot of the, you know, the daddy daughter dance and the mom son dances typically fall on a Saturday night. I think that would be a first choice, but I think Friday night, of course, would be a secondary. If school is still in session, I would avoid a school night just due to implications of attendance and getting up early for school the next day.
So let me say then, if let's say all the Fridays and Saturdays in May are filled, do we go earlier, do we go later, or do we go to a school night?
Well, hang on. Dean had something to say.
I have nothing to add to Brian's. Brian was spot on. I would agree completely.
I would ask that then Brian or Dean or Lynn or Robert, I would suggest a Sunday evening. And the reason why I say that is that there's nothing going on in the morning, there's nothing going on in the afternoon, and if it's only one movie, I don't expect a 5 or 6 year old to stay up till maybe 8, 9 o'clock, 9:30, but we do have an older community. Maybe a 12-year-old would, maybe an 11-year-old would, maybe even a 13-year-old would.
Right, but then they got to go to school the next morning.
Right, but it's not 9:30 for a 13-year-old isn't all that late, especially if they can do something on a Sunday night and then go home.
Right. So obviously we want to go Saturday or Friday. I was just saying, hypothetically, if we couldn't, would it be better to go basically like Sunday or Thursday? Which one would be better?
I would say Sunday because of the fact that a parent isn't doing, the majority of people are going to come to this are parents. So a parent's not doing anything Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon or even early evening. So that's why I suggest that.
Okay.
Work week, as Brian said and Dean agreed, it's just too hectic. It's too chaotic.
Okay.
You got sport programs, you got practice.
Good enough. Okay, so that takes care of the scheduling kind of question. So as far as the particular film, I know, Lynn, you looked through some of the things. My general suggestion was going to be here that maybe we don't actually make a final determination of the movie ourselves. Maybe we put together a short list of movies, and then part of the marketing of this can be we put out a thing saying, hey, here are the choices, vote on what film you would like us to show. And then you increase that buy-in that people have to being invested in the event. So I didn't know if anyone had any thoughts on whether you thought that was a good idea or a bad idea. And then we can discuss specific films if you want.
I think it's a great idea, Robert. It gives the people coming a choice and a say rather than us picking for them. The other reason why I like it too is that it gets people to, for lack of a better word, gets them off their butt to participate a little bit. And how nice is that for them to decide what their kids can watch or not watch? Why, for example, I don't think a PG-13 movie is bad. Some parents might think I'm nuts for saying that, and they wouldn't want their kid to watch that. So who am I to vote for them to have their kids see that or not? They have that power. That's just my 2 cents.
How early do we have to pick the movie?
It doesn't have to be super early. If I remember right, we can get most of the agreement set in place, and then the actual specific film title is only one component of that. I'd like to have it done, I would say 3 weeks before the event would be as late as I would like to wait to make the decision, but.
And are we guaranteed to get the movie we pick if we wait that late?
Good question.
It's not like there's limited copies available. The restrictions of what you could or couldn't get is more based on the date that you're showing it. There's certain blackout dates for certain films, like Disney doesn't allow community showings of most of their films for most of the summer, particularly if they're there's Pixar blackout weekends. There's things like this. It usually falls around whenever they're scheduling their large theatrical release for the season.
Hey, go figure that one out, huh?
But it's not so much a, if we wanted to show a given film and we wait 2 weeks to decide that's the film, it's not like we're going to lose out on the right to show that film. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just didn't want to do this whole thing. People
No, definitely.
and like, oh, guess what? We can't get the film.
Because it's not like in the old days where, there's only, 200 copies of the reels for this film. They will provide a copy of the film, or the license also allows us to provide our own copy. So even, worst case scenario, they're out of their stock of discs for whatever we decided to show. If anybody has that movie in their personal collection, we can use our personal copy as long as we have the licensing.
So then should we make sure that any of the choices we have, somebody has a copy of something?
You know what? If we run out of the things, I will spend the $20 and order and have it here. So that's...
You get it off Amazon and get it off of Prime.
Robert, I would agree that getting engagement from the community and a choice on the movie is a great marketing strategy. I think that, like Chris said, that's a great. What's that?
I feel a butt coming on.
No butts,
okay.
No butts.
All right, great.
I just one caveat, and I think Lynn kind of touched on it, is as long as we have a movie voted on and agreed upon a couple weeks in advance, so that people can determine we voted and Mulan won, and I don't want to see that movie, or yes I do, and they have time to make that decision. Right. But no, I think that's fantastic. That's a great idea, because people love to get, especially on social media, love to get involved in that stuff. So.
Yeah, and we would need to have enough time to let people know what movie was selected.
Yep, exactly.
What's the cost? Why only one night?
It's just the way I budgeted it. I can look at it and see if we could get the numbers to work to do a double showing. We definitely don't have the budget to do 2 nights.
How much is it?
It depends on the specific package that we end up going with and what I can negotiate with the vendor. But I don't have the numbers in front of me. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
We asked for 2,000, didn't we? 2,000, 2,500.
I'm thinking about co-sponsorship and the Junior League and D-Bats doing a second night where the Junior League scheduled games to end close to dusk.
Yeah.
And you play Field of Dreams, and we fed everybody pizza. And
I was actually going to suggest at some point that, if this is successful, or if you guys did want to partner and do a secondary showing, whatever, I did with one of the vendors, I did talk through, we were both, looking at the satellite view of the park and talking about locations, and the area around the fields is actually something that we could probably make work. And that thought, when we looked at that on the map, I did have the thought, we could do like a baseball movie at the baseball field. But, the other thing that I thought could be interesting to add to this event, if it works out with the current state of regulations at the time, is if we could bring in like a food truck or something. But
well, Robert, what I was thinking is, since it's community sponsored, maybe that's a good time for I don't know if the Girl Scouts would still be selling cookies. Maybe they could sell cookies there. Maybe the boys.
Yeah, we used to, when we did this originally, we did have different groups could come in and do concessions.
So then what I have then for this project is that it's been approved. There were 3 things: the marketing, which we talked about, the movie selection, which Lynn and then Brian had made a comment about the movie, and you'll move forward with that. And then, as well as the day we'll play it, which sounds like we've picked Saturday. In addition to that, and I'm volunteering you here, Robert. So you'll work with Dean and perhaps DBAT to see if we could get a correlation with working to sponsor a movie at one of their ball games or something like that. Is that what I heard you say, Dean, correctly?
Well, I think first we have to run the pilot, because that's what we had said to the board that we were going to do.
Right. But there's nothing that stops us from talking to Dean and the Junior League as well as DBAT especially if they're going to pay part of it, to do that. I'm sure the township wouldn't mind a dollar for dollar match either, just like what Dean said on the fields and that. They seem to like that working relationship. So that doesn't stop us from being able to talk to them. Am I right in that assessment though, guys, or no? Did I say that correctly for the notes? Dean or Robert?
Yeah, no, I'm already texting the junior league to put it on the radar.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we can talk about that, Dean, but yeah, because we can look at there's two possibilities here, I guess, of depending upon the timing that it works out.
Yeah, I don't want to take this hostage. I will follow your guys' lead 100%.
Yeah,
but I think there would be interest from the junior league for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we only have 2 months, right?
Second night, or we could look at turning it into a double feature. Two different ways to go here, but.
So, and hopefully my next month's board meeting, maybe Dean or the DBAT can come back with us in addition to what they're already coming back for. We can have an update on that as well then. Great. Is that?
Well, we're going to have to start promoting this right away.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, we don't really at this point have the
flexibility
to wait until the next meeting to make these kinds of decisions.
Well, I mean, I don't think that we're going, as far as the May showing goes, I think that Dean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys have a good network of being able to promote the movie from your end, correct? And I'm sure DBAT does. And we do have some capabilities of getting this out there through the newsletter each month with the township, as well as putting it up on our website under the Parks Advisory Board as well. Am I wrong in assuming that, Dean? Would you guys be able to advertise something like that?
Right, but if we look in the township stuff on the township newsletter, we have to do that by what, next week or the week after? Which means we need to start making promotional stuff now because it has to be drafted up. This is not something that we can wait on.
We're not waiting on it though. If Robert and them come together and they agree, that would be.
My hope is to have the date selected this week.
Correct. So then by next week, we can have something put into the newsletter.
But if we're trying to get input, we've got to come up with that kind of, if we're not going to just pick the movie and say, this is the movie we're doing, then we have to design how we're going to get that feedback. And we have time to get the feedback.
Yeah, whether the jury is involved in the trial run or not, let me know what you guys decide and I'll have them promote it through their social networking.
Okay.
They've got 1,000 families, so yeah.
That would be great.
So that's where we left off with that then. That's where we stand with this. Does everybody agree then right now where we're at?
No, I think we're going to have to, I think we're going to have to come up with choices of what the movie is to even have to send out to give people a choice. I think we better come up with some choices tonight.
Lynn, I don't think that we do. I think that if the choices get presented to the people by the 1st of May, we still have 2 weeks to allow Dean and Robert and Jason to maybe get a plan together. And just like what Dean said, just like I'm sure with DBAT, they have a networking system for us. So if we miss that deadline with the township, we have an outside source for advertising it the first time around.
Right. So if we wait to the first week of May, we miss the township newsletter.
Right.
So we're relying totally on other means.
What's wrong with, how many people do you have, Dean, in the junior league households? 200?
Between email lists and Facebook, it's between 1,000 and 2,000.
I don't think that the newsletter touches even a third of that. So I think we'll be all right in that sense the first time around. I mean, am I wrong in assuming that or no?
So I don't know that you're wrong, but also I don't want to wait that. I don't want to wait until the next meeting to be moving on these things. So I think the things that I need out of this group tonight to give me the direction to feel like I'm able to make some decisions as we go is maybe a little more of a plan on marketing, though part of that can happen in next month. Yes. But the other thing is maybe we don't need a list of the specific movies that we put into the poll, but I think we do need to discuss a little bit of criteria of like, okay, well, we're not going to show an R film. We're not going to show it, like what are our guardrails here? Do we have anything that we do or don't want to be doing?
Well, I thought it would be pretty much, I didn't think that we needed to discuss if it's an R movie or not.
Well, I know that's an extreme example,
right.
but
But what I would say is that as far as moving forward tonight, I think that we have plenty of time. I guess what I'm saying is that Dean obviously has offered to partner with us. That's great. I want to allow him to be able to talk to his folks to see what they think first, because remember, he's got other people that are going to, maybe they say no to it, and he's the lone voice that says yes. I also want to see what DBAT has to say. I don't want to move forward with decisions if they come back and kind of say, well, we were thinking this or that. You know what I mean? Does that?
Well, I think we as a board need to move ahead on this. And then if they decide they want to join, then we'll partner at that time. But I think we have to drive this forward now. I don't think we can wait to see what happens on there. And
right. So
okay,
what are you thinking about?
Take that out of it though. Let's take that out of it though. We just said a few minutes ago, and this is why I guess we're chasing circles. We just said a few minutes ago that we needed to get it into the newsletter before Dean had said anything by the 1st of May. We said we had plenty of time to do that because we would have another week.
Well,
so then I guess that's why I'm confused. Where are we not at? All right. What do we need to do then?
I think
do we not have enough time? Do we need to do something now? Let's just get it done.
Yeah. I think we need to come up with some potential dates so that Robert can see what he can do with that.
I thought we decided that was going to be the May 22nd, Saturday.
Yep. And we've got some fallback dates in case he can't.
Correct. 21st and then that Sunday, right? Which would be the 23rd. We discussed that, right?
And we should talk about some criteria about the movies. How many movies should we give up there for them to select from?
All right. So how many movies should we select from? 3, 5?
I was going to say no more than 5.
All right. Dean, Brian, you guys are guests here. What would you think? 5 is appropriate? 3?
Yeah, 4 or 5 is usually a pretty good number when you're giving a polling option.
All right. I say 5 then.
All right.
Do we want to talk about the types of movies? Do we want
as types? What do you mean?
Do we want? I mean, I can tell you the movies that I picked, so you can see kind of what I was.
Well, let's rattle off a little list there, and we can see kind of where you were thinking.
Okay, so I was kind of thinking, like The Incredibles, Avatar, Princess Bride, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. If you want to do something about, contagions, Jurassic Park, first Harry Potter film, How to Tame Your Dragon, something that would kind of go across many age groups.
Comment?
I have a question, Robert. Do you have a so obviously, movies is an extremely broad
yes
range. So with these vendors that you're working with, are there certain parameters, limitations?
They have lists.
Okay. All right. I apologize.
There are 2 major companies that handle this. One of them has the vast majority of the studios, and the other one has some of the remainder, I guess you could say.
Okay. Yep.
But you can get pretty much any movie that you would think about, subject to, like I said, certain studios having certain blackout dates.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's generally not a problem. Their catalog is extensive.
Gotcha. Okay. I wasn't sure if there was things that were like just recently in the theater that would be like
there are
there were a few on the list, but
I would say generally not current year things. Like essentially, if it's still running in a theater right now, you're not going to get it because this is what they call a non-theatrical public performance license.
Gotcha.
So it's part of that stipulation on like, well, you're not allowed to put an ad in a newspaper kind of a thing is designed to make it so you're not competing against the theater market.
Gotcha.
You might get something a year old. I did see, what was that movie that, The Greatest Showman? That's from a couple of years ago. I mean, but you're
Like
looking at stuff that's, anywhere from a year or two to quite a few years back. I mean, they had classic films, but
Though generally, I tend to think for an event like this, you're probably better off picking something that you think people may have already seen it, but it's something that a lot of people want to go see. It's one of those like either a cult film or just a really popular
popular blockbuster type
that's
thing.
where
I
mean, personally, I love The Princess Bride. That would be on my list, but
it's on my list.
it's also a surprisingly divisive movie. There's a lot of people that really do not like it and think it's not a good movie.
There's something wrong with those people then. I don't know.
I agree, but
it's got enough of a cult following that you're going to get people of all different age groups and probably some kids that have never seen it where their parents drag them to say, hey, you got to see this movie.
Well, then so what's the decision here then for the type of movie then that we want? So we can move this forward. Are we looking at a younger generation, like what Lynn has suggested? I think those all sound fine if we wanted to pick 5 of those. Obviously, you guys like The Princess Bride or whatever the heck it's called. Maybe that'd be one of them. I would be more of a sports guy, maybe like Dean said, maybe a sports type movie or something. Mm-hmm. But that's just my opinion. But so we've decided though, Lynn, Robert, can you guys work on that then? Because to be quite honest with you, whatever movie we play. There's not going to be any wrong movie to pick from. You know what I mean? Whether it's Avatar or Harry Potter, there's a lot of kids that like that. There's even a lot of young teenagers that like it for that matter, and some adults. So
yeah, that's what I was looking for, something that had universal appeal.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm saying. You made great choices. So if you guys want to fine tune it from there, great. Is that what you want to do? Or, what do you want to do here, Robert?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I wanted to just see if everybody's on the same page of like the kind of movie. I didn't necessarily mean we had to pick our list of films that are going in the survey, but
no, that's fine. I think that her choices accommodated the masses out there as best they could.
Right.
Let's face it, one group's there's going to be certain people that don't like it, certain people that do, certain people that don't care. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think your choices are good enough. If that answers your question, then that fulfills this portion of that, correct? So okay. We're all set?
Yeah, I think we can handle a final selection kind of thing through.
Now, the question, and here it is. Are we going to be able to get this submitted are we looking at submitting this to the May newsletter through the township, like I was saying before? And if so,
I want it in the April newsletter. Assuming
it's got to be in April.
Locked down this week, we can put our first blurb in the April newsletter saying, "Hey, this is coming up." That one won't have the title of the film in it, but it's saying we're going to be doing this on this date.
Block your calendar. No.
So, Robert, am I to assume that you'll make sure this gets over to Melanie or who?
Catherine for
the newsletter then, or no?
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. If there's no further questions from anybody, I'll move on to the next one then. Next item.
Yeah, I think we're good for this. I just wanted to make sure I was going in a direction that everybody was agreeable with. That was.
No, I am. I guess what I'll be honest with you about it. I guess what threw me off was that we were talking about May, and that's why until we broke it down like this, that's why I figured the best way to do it just be break it down step by step. And I'm glad we did it because I understand now why you guys were saying we need to do it now for April, because it would be too late for May to make a choice in that matter. However, though, I didn't want to discount Dean and what he had offered. And my thought was,
and this still doesn't preclude that.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. That's what I'm saying. So the thought is that we can still do it for April and do it for May for the May or the June one. So we're set. It was just.
And my understanding from the township meeting was, this was going to be our pilot, and if it went well, they would fund more. So that would also give Dean a chance to partner with us later in the year if this goes well. So think it's really important that we put a lot of effort into this pilot showing.
And that's why the marketing piece is going to be critical here, is because this is our shot, and if we get a good turnout.
That's where I disagree with the both of you. If we're looking to market this from strictly a marketing standpoint, how is it that then we wouldn't want Dean involved in this and want him to do it? I'm sorry, I said that wrong.
I don't think anyone's saying we don't.
But I mean, we want him involved right away with this because they have more reach than what we can provide.
So I think, Chris, what maybe my understanding is that we would love efforts from other organizations to promote the film for our pilot, but that could spin off into more opportunity for that organization to be a donor or a partner for future films. I mean, listen, nothing beats July movie night, Field of Dreams, sponsored by DBATS, but fill in the blanks. But I think initially we just got to get this pilot off the ground. We only have 6 weeks or whatever it is, 8 weeks. We would love for Dean and other organizations to help market it because that's going to get people there. But as far as forming a partnership financially and things like that, that could take some time.
That part can't. I'm talking about that, but as far as the pilot, what I want to be clear though is, as far as the pilot and making it as big as we can, not in doing it like we are now, it's not going to be the biggest reach. You know, that's all I'm saying.
It's not an either or though. We can, you know, if Junior League is willing to promote this through their newsletter, that's wonderful. It doesn't mean that's our only avenue to promote it.
Right.
But that's our
this is a nonprofit community event. The Junior League would be happy to post this everywhere.
All right.
I mean, we've got that. We've got. I'm sure we can get it into the library newsletter.
Yep, that's what I was going to say. We should get it in the library, library emails, and the library newsletter.
If we go early enough, maybe we can get. Well, no, the SLARA program is already printed, probably.
But. Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Well, and I took a look at the promotional stuff they had on those websites for the movies. I mean, they have things for, like, you can print off little posters and stuff. We might be able to get the library to help us with making flyers or posters, and then see.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day when we did this before, one of the things is Lisa would go up to and print off a bunch of flyers and take them around to the pizza places and ask them, hey, can you put one of these on the boxes you're delivering tonight?
The elementary schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, then we're in agreement. I just wanted, maybe it was my misunderstanding of it. Whatever. Sorry. I apologize for it. Just wanted to, since we had a welcome invite from Dean, knowing that that's a lot of people in the community, I wanted to make sure we were utilizing it.
Yeah, we'll certainly take him up on that offer. It shouldn't be our only outreach.
Right. So then moving forward, if there's no other questions, we're set on that, Lynn, Robert? Okay. Moving forward then, the communication plan, which is unfinished business F. Where do we stand with that?
Well, we put something in the last newsletter. We put in the survey that went out, and so did the opening for our board. And
so can I ask a question then? Can we include in the communication plan, and I'm hoping next month you can come back with this, can we look at maybe the possibility of a different vehicle for promoting the Parks Board in a different way? Maybe that's something you could explore, because outside just the newsletter and that, I would like to get more exposure to it, if that's at all possible. If you want help with it, I'd be more than happy to help you with it. So let me know. But is it possible to do that?
What are your thoughts?
Well, as I said, another vehicle that we can use, whether it be a Facebook, whether it be a whatever other maybe not a network site, but any other sites that we can use to promote what goes on here.
Right. So we also were using the Lyon Township Facebook, because that's where the newsletter gets posted, and the Lyon Township Twitter. I think it was Twitter. Yeah, I think it's Twitter, where it tells you that it's gone out.
Did we end up getting really any feedback from anybody at the township about how we could go about getting different social media posts made through their channels? Did we investigate that or no?
It sounded like all I had to do was ask them to post it. Just
okay.
But I mean, to Robert's point, can we get feedback under our own site, the Parks Advisory Board site, for comments or questions or anything like that?
I'm not trying to play the, I'm sorry, I know we're brainstorming and no idea is a bad idea kind of thing, but the downside to the positive to having what you're talking about is, yeah, it gives us our own brand, our own identity, and a clear place for people to look. But the downside is that we start off with virtually no following. And it's hard.
Now the newsletter, at least now the newsletter let them know that, hey, we're publishing something in the newsletter, which, was not very often was something that the parks did. So if they now, and certainly in that publication, I did point them back to our website, so there may be people that even don't even have never looked at our website. So I think.
So what is your, okay, so moving forward then, when are you sending out another, what information do you plan on sending out over the next course of the month?
Well, I thought that I would probably send out something about the movies if we had something to that we could publish. That's why I was asking about, what movies do we want to talk about? Do we want to send out a survey? Do we want to set that up? Because that's got to go out by, I think, you sent me that, Robert, is that next?
Yeah, I know I sent it. I don't remember the date.
But again, that's the newsletter, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so then exploring other vehicles, and I don't want to clash the two, but this is where I would like to see if we could look at other areas to explore. Despite not having a following or not, we can build that following if we promote it.
You can. I'm just saying it's difficult, and the way the algorithms work, you have to be posting consistently and a certain volume of content to actually show up in people's feeds frequently. And so I'm just saying, if we want to go that route, that's okay. That's an option, but it's a commitment that we have to really be generating a lot of content. If we're only going to be making, 1 or 2 posts a month, we're probably better off just staying under the existing township profiles.
Okay. All right. Again, that's why I asked what we can do to explore our vehicles. Didn't know that. I don't know this stuff. That's why I was asking if maybe Lynn could look into it and let us know what other options we have.
I think, Brian, you had your hand up there.
You're on mute, Brian.
No, I was raising my hand because I did not know you had a website.
See?
we have a page on the township website.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, see, that's where I'm asking Brian other vehicles, because and Dean, maybe you can chime in on this. Everything's directed to the township. So when you get to the township website, you actually got to come hunt for us. There's not something dedicated just to our board. Am I making sense on that?
No, but I think if in our publications that we put in the newsletter that we put a link to our board, which is what I did for, the last one. So it's like, hey, come here. You can contact any of us through email. This is where you come, right? Then that directs them there.
All right.
If you build it, they will come. Focus on activities and getting good events going, and people will find you.
Is that dropping a hint towards your movie?
No, but I just noticed that. That's 2 Field of Dreams references.
All right, then, Lynn, the only thing I would ask then is before you send anything out, if you could send it to the rest of us so we can just take a look at it before it goes out, please.
Yep, did that last time.
All right,
And
great. Thank you.
Real quick too, to Robert's point, if my election to the board is approved, I would have no problem kind of helping maintain social media presence, marketing, that kind of things. If that's something that you guys want help with, if it's making sure we have a post 3 times a week or whatever, because again, to Robert's point, if you're only doing once a month, it's dead. Don't even bother. So.
All right. So then, Lynn, to summarize this up, then you'll send out the notice like you did last time for us to take a look at what's going to be broadcasted in the newsletter and that sort of thing, correct?
Right. So I'm assuming then that Robert and I are going to be working on that, since Robert was going to put something out in the newsletter about this.
I will at least get you the date.
Okay, you'll give me the date. All right, that's fine.
If you want to come up with something to say about a narrative for it, go for it. I'm happy to review it.
Okay.
If you don't come up with something, I can try to, but yeah, I will at least get you the date.
Okay, and so then I guess, you know, in order for me to send this out in the newsletter, what is going to be our plan for voting on the movie?
I think at this point we won't probably have like a link to a survey yet. So just kind of like a, you know, look for our survey on the, you know, on the township Facebook page or whatever, or on our website or wherever you want to refer people to.
I think what I do is I'll refer them to our website, and then when we actually have the list, maybe we can get that out as a Facebook and a Twitter posting from, you know, separately from the newsletter, and then which would also direct them back to our website as well.
Yep. The only other thing I'll say on this topic is to address Chris's question kind of, well, what other vehicles, and the talk of, you know, well, how can we distribute these kind of things? Maybe something that we should have is just a list or an inventory of what different channels do we have available to us.
That's what I was asking.
A written list of, okay, here are the different things we can use. We have the township newsletter, we have the township Facebook, we have the township Twitter, we have our website, we have the library newsletter, we have other community groups that we may want to distribute certain things through. Something that we can look at and go, okay, we need to put this here, here, and here for this event.
Are there any questions, Brian, Lynn, Robert, on this? Then we'll go ahead and end this then. Moving forward with our last item for under unfinished business, the grants. This will be quick and easy. Lynn, Robert, you saw the emails that went back and forth. Where we stand currently is that I'm going to email back Brian and just take a look at what grants are available to us at this point, since it's obvious we're not going to hit the April one. I do know that some were there. So what I found out from him, go ahead.
I will share that update as well from the Board of Trustees meeting. I did bring up the option basically of, should we rush and try and submit something for this grant cycle, and the board was of the opinion that they would rather wait and come up with a solid proposal that we are sure is going to score well for next year.
And that's what Brian had told me in private talks with them. So as you guys seen in the emails, Brian, you'll be privy to this as soon as you're on board. Dean just kind of touched on what I was saying earlier. So just to give you an update, we wanted to apply for some grants, found out that there was some paperwork errors, got those straightened up. The township did for us right away through John's help and Brian, the city planner. And now we're moving forward to seeing what we can apply for grants on. Some of the talks were based off of, for what we can apply for, were based off the survey that we just completed a couple months ago. I don't know if you saw that survey or not, Dean, but we can certainly send one over because we were asking for input from the community. So that's what we're basing the need.
No, I'm one of your respondents.
Oh, okay, perfect. So we're basing the needs off of that. And we're going to try to gear the grants towards that as well. So where we stand at is that I'm going to try to meet with Brian. If one of you guys would like to attend the meeting with me, would love to have you there. You know, again, I'm single-minded in how I think, just like everybody thinks a different way. And I tell Robert this, I've told Dean this in the past, I told anybody this, you know, I'm just a dumb guy. So, you know, I don't claim to be a smart one, but I think more brains together form better questions, better answers, and better options. So if one of you can meet with them, I'll even let Aaron know. If one of you guys want to go meet with me with him, if that's how we choose to do it, or do a Zoom meeting, I'll let you guys know, and you know, we'll meet with them. I know that these grants are going to be long, and I know that they're going to be taxing to put together. So this isn't something that's going to be able to be overnight or even within a month or two's time. So there will be continuous updates as this moves forward.
There are two just broad, things with this, and I think we can kind of come at this from two different directions, because you can take the approach of, well, let's come up with a project that we want to do and then find a grant that fits it. But you can also say, what grants are out there? Do any of these look like something that we think we might be able to come up with a project that fits?
Well, again, too, the board has to be updated, and with my talks with Brian, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, so if he watches this video, please correct me. But the way that Brian had explained it, at this point now, we're better off seeing what grants there are for us, because being a seasonal state, maybe we can prepare for that grant for a project or something later on.
Right, but that's what it says. There's those two approaches, and that's one of them is what grants. But again, I just want to reiterate, there's more than just the DNR grants, like the trust fund and the recreation passport grants. There's a lot of.
And you're correct about that. That's why I'm going to sit down and meet with them to say what's readily available that you can help us out with. What's the real and the other question I'm going to ask too. And before I meet with them, I'll send you guys out my questions I'm going to ask them. One of the things I'm going to ask them is I'm not looking to chase something a year from now. Unless we have to wait that long, but what's something we can do within the next month to 6 month window? And I'll have him outline what that is.
A lot of times your grant application is going to take that long to put together.
Correct. But once it's approved, we can jump on it right away because the township's already given their seal of approval on it. I don't know. Again, that's why I want you guys, if one of you guys want to show up to the meeting, all you want to show up to the meeting, that'd be great.
So something I noticed is not on the unfinished business was, it's my understanding that the kite festival is going to happen this year.
They are currently planning to have that. Yes.
Do we do anything with that? Are we involved in that in any way?
As it stands, no. I personally feel that this group should be more involved in different events going on in the park and groups using the park, but that doesn't appear to be currently the case. Nothing says we can't do anything with them. If you would like to be involved in the kite festival specifically, I'm sure would be more than happy to take any assistance. But as it stands, there's currently no requirement for them to work with us on anything. Does that answer?
We don't try to plan anything like having food trucks or anything out there as part of that event. That's not something that you've done in the past.
No.
No, they're
pretty hands off with that. They want to do it on their own, be on their own, and that's how it's always been left.
They have, they have like vendor applications for things like that. I think.
Well, it looks like we used to, at least on our website, post that it was happening because there were flyers and stuff from years ago.
Yeah, it's. They work with. Tina is involved in the Kite Fest is put on by Leo. Tina works with Leo, and so she usually, I believe, does some promotional things through the township for it.
Okay, so then we don't have to worry about promoting it through our website.
It is not the responsibility of this group to promote it, but it's also not something that we're not allowed to be involved in. It's
okay. I just would have thought we would have been involved in that, but hey, what do I know?
I would like to be, but the relationship between Leo and the township, and specifically between Leo and this board, is not necessarily clearly defined as I would like it to be, but that's a separate issue.
Okay.
Outside of that, there's no other agenda items. I was going to call an adjournment to this. I can't even talk now. like to end the meeting. So
Yeah, I mean, I would just say if Brian or Dean, since you guys hung around this long, if you had any closing thoughts that you wanted to make on anything.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be so rude, guys.
You, Brian.
No closing thoughts for me. I mean, I thank you for the opportunity to be involved and stay on here. This is all good stuff, and I'm excited to be a part of it going forward, hopefully. And I think this May event is actually going to be a great kickoff. I think people will be ready to get back out and about, so I'm excited about it.
Robert, real quick, sorry, Dean, real quick, should he call the township, Melanie, and because I don't see any reason why his application won't go through, and start sending up his email now? Could he do that tomorrow possibly?
It doesn't hurt to ask. I can't comment on whether they would or wouldn't do that, but
Brian, do you have my phone number still from last night?
Yeah, it's in my phone.
Okay, why don't you give me a call tomorrow, and give me a call during the business hours if you can. If
Okay.
not, text me your email address, and I'll call Melanie and see if we can get that set up for you prior. Then that way you can start getting the emails and that beforehand.
So I guess that's a good question. When do they meet to either confirm or the appointment?
It'll be on the Board of Trustees next the next Board of Trustees meeting, which I believe will be May or April 1st. Is that too? No.
5th, April 5th.
Sorry,
April
5th.
5th. Okay.
Yes. And what they'll do is they'll just do, it's usually at the beginning, they'll just, hey, this, Brian so-and-so, wants to be on the board, and they'll approve it, and that'll be the end of it.
What your sign is and which Bee Gees song you like the best.
Perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
That's easy.
You meet
Staying
them
alive, man.
afterwards, and they give you a special gown, special robe, and, carry in the Bible and the law books.
Hey, I just wanted to thank you guys, Lynn and Brian. It's nice meeting you. Chris and Robert, good seeing you again. I look forward to continuing the conversation around the agenda item I was on for. So thank you very much.
Yeah, Dean, like I said too, we appreciate you coming tonight. Thanks for sticking around. It was nice to see you. And if you ever want to join us again, I know that you got a lot of things going on, but if you ever want to join us again, I'd love to have you. It was nice to be able to bounce things off you too. So thanks for your input.
I think you're onto something with this movie in the park. And again, I think the Junior League would be interested, and we'll take your lead and direction as you guys figure it out. So don't be shy to reach out.
All right, Dean. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you at next month's meeting for the on the follow-up for that. So thanks.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. So thank you guys both for.
I'll get together with you. I'll give you a call here tomorrow, maybe. Well, I took notes, but I just not super detailed, but I made sure every topic was covered with a couple sentences under there for what the main discussion was about. Then we could fine tune it from there. And then Len, just make sure before you say anything out like you did last month, if you could just make sure we see it first, that's all. So I'd appreciate that. I appreciate what you did. I didn't respond to you. I personally apologize for that. I read it and just, I even told Robert I should have sent something, but I didn't. So I apologize. This time I will. I'll make sure of it. And Brian, I don't know if I can share the emails or not. I'll ask, but I would certainly love to get you on board so that you're, hitting the ground running, from next month's meeting. So I'll find out if I can get you an email set up. And if we can, then I guess that would be the signal for me to be able to send you over the emails moving forward so you're caught up on everything.
Okay. Yep. Sounds good. I just wanted to make sure on the date so that I could be available when that happens. So I appreciate that. And like I said, I'll touch base with you, Chris, so you have my information.
Yeah.
And I'll take your lead on that one. So.
And the other thing too is, I'll say this to you, Brian, for everybody. I said this last night on the phone to you. We're all equal in our say. It doesn't matter our titles or anything else here, and we're just an advisory board. Out of all the boards, we're probably at the bottom of the chain. With that being said, though, reach out to Robert, reach out to Lynn, whoever you have your comfortability with. I'm okay with it, but like I said on the phone too to you, we're just a group that's trying to move forward. Sometimes we argue about our ideas or differ on them. You saw that tonight. So, but as long as we can be proactive and communicate effectively, then I think that we can change things. The board has been changing. Robert and I, like I told you yesterday, have moved it forward quite a bit. Lynn and Aaron have really helped out big time. and getting things rolling in that. So I think with your background, we might be able to even cement a further posting of this board to get more things going. So thank you.
Awesome. Looking forward to being a part of it.
All right, great. Robert, I'll give you a call then later to make sure we review the notes and get those right. And then next time around, if Aaron isn't going to be here, maybe we can designate that to somebody, or we can get somebody to do it. But in any event, I'll call you to make sure we got the right stuff. And then I'll get the other notes from last month's meeting cemented with you so that we're good in the township, with the township. All right. If someone wants a second,